I, Chun Mingdao, 18 years old, sitting in the back row of class like a forgotten sock behind a washing machine. Our teacher, Miss Ing Shuyen, absolute knockout, could literally slice a building in half with a sword, no big deal, was giving us the graduation speech. 13 years of magic martial school, and today was the big day. Every human turning 18 gets teleported to the myriad races continent. It's basically the universe's way of saying, happy birthday, now survive. She's talking about becoming gods, living forever, all that good stuff. Meanwhile, I'm over here looking like a scarecrow someone forgot to throw away. Pale face, busted up uniform, body held together by spite and stubbornness. See, I've got a tumor. Nasty one. And being an orphan means my medical plan is basically, hope really hard. But here's the thing. The textbook says when you get teleported, some mysterious energy rebuilds your whole body. Fixes everything. So I've been white-knuckling through years of pain, just waiting for this moment. Missing explained the job system. You get a random class, swordsman, knight, mage, whatever. But there's one super rare one, lord. Like, 1 in 10,000 rare. Lords build territories, recruit armies, basically play real-time strategy, but it's your actual life. Every rich family and government on Blue Star would kill to partner with a lord. Then this chunky kid in class goes, if I become a lord, I'm gonna grow magic rice and raise fat pigs and sell everything back home. Bro, you could rule a continent, and you want to be old MacDonald? Everyone looked at him like he'd just failed the IQ check for breathing. Me? If I got lord class, I'd be building empires, conquering nations, sleeping on a throne. Farmer life? Hard pass. Then, boom, a voice exploded in my brain. Myriad races continent voyage launching. All eligible youth locked in. This is your trial and your road to godhood. Good luck. Don't die. My heart almost detonated from joy. This was it. Giant white light pillars crashed down from the sky all over the planet, hitting every university. One hit me. Energy flooded every bone, every cell. Felt like my body got thrown into a blender and reassembled by a very competent chef. The tumor? Gone. The pain? Evaporated. I felt like a brand new human being fresh out of the packaging. Blink, and the whole classroom was empty. Just missing left behind, standing there looking sad, mumbling about how she wished she'd gotten the Lord class back in her day so her family couldn't have forced her into teaching. And me? I was already somewhere else entirely, surrounded by swirling colors, standing at the doorstep of a whole new world. Myriad races continent, Chun Mingdao has arrived. Try to keep up. Welcome to the Myriad Races continent. Cool, cool, cool. I literally just got here, still wiggling my brand new tumor-free fingers like a toddler discovering hands, and the system starts machine gunning notifications into my brain. Congratulations. Your random classes. Lord, I'm sorry, what? 1 in 10,000 odds. That's like winning the lottery while getting struck by lightning while a supermodel asks for your number. I, Chun Mingdao, the orphan who couldn't afford cough medicine, just hit the cosmic jackpot. But wait, there's more. I also got a unique top-tier talent called synthesis. I can combine same-rank items, troops, materials into higher-rank versions. No cost. Unlimited uses. Basically, I'm a walking upgrade factory. So I looked around at my new kingdom, and yeah, it was a dirt patch. A 500 by 500 meter empty lot with one crappy wooden shack and a glowing diamond crystal on a pyramid. The Lord's Heart, which is basically my whole career sitting on a rock. If it breaks, I'm unemployed. Around the edges, a thin barrier shield, and beyond that, dark forest full of things that definitely wanted to eat me. 7 days of safety. After that, monsters attack daily. No pressure. According to the textbook. Yes, I actually paid attention in school. Shocking. Step 1 for any lord is recruiting troops. Because my only combat skill is a passive aura that makes people like me slightly more real threatening. A bunny rabbit could take me in a fight right now. Troops come in 7 tiers. Common, fine, rare, superior, epic, legendary, and mythic. Dragons are usually legendary. Titans start at epic minimum. The good stuff. Heart pounding, palms sweating. I activated the Lord's Heart and whispered, recruit troops. The system rolled the dice and gave me 5 options. 5. Normally you get 1, maybe 2 if you're blessed. 5 is absolutely unheard of. I should have been doing backflips. Except here's what those 5 options were. Common grade ghost. Common grade slime. Common grade skeleton swordsman. Common grade zombie. Common grade centaur. 5 choices. All trash. Every single one. It's like the universe handed me 5 lottery tickets, and they all said, you win. A used napkin. I had the luckiest roll in history and got the most garbage results possible. My heart wasn't just sinking, it was digging its own grave and jumping in. 5 common grade rejects. Pick one to keep forever. No takebacks. This is fine. Everything is fine. I'm not crying. My eyes are just sweating. Okay, so I'm standing there, staring at my 5 glorious options, all common grade garbage, when my one remaining brain cell flickered to life and screamed, you have the synthesis talent, you idiot. Right. I can merge stuff into higher tier versions. So maybe starting with trash isn't a death sentence. Maybe it's a strategy? That's what I'll call it. A strategy, not cosmic bad luck. Strategy. I pulled up my Lord panel, basically a floating holographic stat sheet, and there I was, Chen Mingdao. Lord. Common rank. 0 reputation. 0 everything. Just vibes and 1,200 gold coins the system hands out like a pity gift to new lords. Now I had to pick one of my 5 dumpster fire troop options. Let me walk you through my rigorous military analysis. Slime? Literally a puddle with ambition. Pass. Ghost? Can do spooky soul attacks, but a stiff breeze could probably beat it in arm wrestling. 2 one-dimensional. Pass. Skeleton swordsman? It's a dead guy with a sword. Aesthetically upsetting. Pass. Zombie? An even deader dead guy. Smells worse. Absolutely not. Centaur? Half human, half horse, fully alive. And this is the important part. Not a person, so I wouldn't feel weird about merging them together later. Also, they look pretty cool. I choose Centaur. And here's the one beautiful silver lining of having bottom barrel troops. They cost 2 gold coins each. 2. Legendary troops cost 1,800. Mythic cost 12,000. My guys are basically the dollar store army. Cheap is an advantage. That's what I'm telling myself. With 1,200 coins, I could recruit 600 centaurs. Except my village only holds 120 people total. So I did some quick math. 100 fighters, 20 farmers, and said the magic words. Recruit 100 centaurs. The Lord's heart shot out a golden beam, ripped open a 5-meter-tall portal in the middle of my dirt lot, and out they came. The first thing that emerged from the portal was a magnificent pair of, well, let's just say centaurs have very generous upper anatomy. Then the rest followed. 100 half-human, half-horse warriors, each 3 meters long and built like a truck married a bodybuilder. Leather armor, bows, spears, swords, shields, the whole medieval weapon buffet. They looked awesome. Sure, they were common grade, but standing there in formation, towering over me, I felt like a kid who just opened the world's most intimidating birthday present. All 100 of them knelt and said in unison, "Greetings, my lord." I won't lie. A single tear may have formed. Just one. A manly tear. 2 hours ago, I was a dying orphan in a broken school uniform. Now I had a territory, a cheat code talent, and 100 horse people calling me boss. Cheap. Yes. Common grade? Unfortunately. But mine? Absolutely. 100 centaurs bowed their massive horse heads at me, and I felt like the world's most underprepared king. I checked the stats on one of them, and oh boy. Common grade, level 1, attributes in the single digits, intelligence described as not high, temperament, wild and irritable, and the system literally said, and I quote the general idea, you can basically treat them like animals. Animals. My army. My pride and joy. Livestock with swords. But, and this is the big but, at the bottom of the stat panel, for beautiful words glowed, can be synthesized. 2 common males merge into 1 fine-grade warrior. My hands started shaking. Not from fear. From greed. I activated synthesis. Golden light shot from my eyeballs. Yeah, my actual eyeballs. That's apparently how this works. And wrapped around all 100 centaurs. Flash of light. Poof. And suddenly I had 50 instead of 100. But these 50? Chainmail armor instead of rags. Real weapons instead of rusty junk. Stats jumped from single digits to the 40s. Growth potential upgraded from barely superhuman to king level. The system still called them irritable animals though. Thanks for the morale boost. But I wasn't done. Oh no, Chen Mingdao doesn't stop at, pretty good, recruit more. Synthesize. Recruit more. Synthesize. Recruit. Synthesize. I was burning through gold coins like a lunatic at an arcade, slamming that merge button over and over. When the dust settled and my 1,200 coins were completely gone, I had 100 rare-grade Centaur warriors standing in front of me. Level 3. Stats in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Real iron armor. Mastery of advanced combat techniques. And the system finally stopped calling them animals. They were now described as intelligent and skilled. Oh, now they get respect. A single one of these guys could demolish the entire original batch of common-grade centaurs. And they could still be merged higher. 4 rare males make 1 superior-grade commander. I stroked one of their shiny new chest plates and grinned like a maniac. These were just the starting version. The possibilities stretched all the way up to legendary. Mythic. I could practically taste world domination. Go, I said, pointing dramatically at the wilderness beyond my barrier. Kill everything within 5 kilometers. Yes, my lord. They thundered, and 100 sets of hooves shook the ground as they charged out. I sat down on the dirt. My territory was still basically an empty parking lot, and opened up the chat panel to see how everyone else was doing. Turns out we'd all been dumped in a region called the Windspeak Wasteland, and it was not friendly. Our zone started with 1 million people. In less than 30 minutes, over 30,000 were already dead. 30,000. In half an hour. The chat was pure chaos. Why are we in Windspeak Wasteland? This is one of the most dangerous beginner zones. Some know-it-all popped up listing catastrophes, blizzards, snow demons, alien races, cursed winds, 27 different disasters. Someone asked how to survive. The answer? Pray. Then the flexing started. Epic grade Lich Lord here. No big deal lol. Superior grade Hill Dwarf checking in. Pretty chill honestly. Legendary Black Dragon just flying by. TSK, TSK, TSK. Everyone started begging the lords for protection. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here with my 100 rare grade horsemen thinking, I'm not ready to brag yet, but give me a few more recruit and merge cycles, and I'll be the one. Going, TSK, TSK, TSK. I sent my 100 rare grade centaurs out to murder everything within 5 kilometers, then sat on the dirt like a CEO whose office is literally just dirt. The kill notifications started rolling in like spam emails I actually wanted to read. Your centaur killed a level 1 wild boar. You received 16 chunks of meat. Your centaur killed a level 2 boar king. You received fancy meat, tusks, and 3 gold coins. Your centaur killed a, yeah, you get the idea. It was non-stop. My boys were out there absolutely bulldozing the local wildlife. Level 3 rare grade warriors versus level 1 pigs? That's not a fight. That's a barbecue with extra steps. And here's the beautiful Lord perk. Every time my troops killed something, I got a little trickle of origin spirit energy beamed directly into my body. Like getting paid to sit on your, but while your employees do all the work. Finally, a job I'm qualified for. The energy felt like warm soup flowing through my veins, slowly buffing up everything. Strength, speed, senses, the whole package. After about an hour of my centaurs committing ecological genocide on every boar, snake, bat, spider, and goblin in the neighborhood, a heat burst exploded from my belly and spread everywhere. I leveled up. Level 1. Chen Mingdao, former dying orphan, was now officially superhuman. I could see farther, run faster, punch harder. Not exactly a god yet, but definitely above. Guy who gets winded climbing stairs. I named my territory Chen Village because creativity isn't my strongest trait, and pulled up my stats. 21 gold coins left. From 1,200. I was basically broke again, but broke with an army, which is a huge improvement over just regular broke. Now here's what kept me from celebrating too hard. I'm still a lord, which means my combat ability is basically stand behind everyone else and hope. My stats grow evenly in all 4 areas: soul, spirit, body, speed, instead of specializing like fighters do. A swordsman my level could probably slap me silly in a one-on-one. And in this trial zone alone, there were over 10,000 districts with 1 million people each. Most of them fighters. Some of them from my own country who might get jealous enough to stab me for my lord status. Years of being sick taught me one thing. Being weak gets you killed. So getting stronger myself wasn't optional. It was survival. I looked around my glorious territory. One crystal on a rock. One wooden shack. Endless empty space. No resources to build anything. My kingdom, ladies and gentlemen. A parking lot with a shed. But hey, 1 hour ago, I was a regular person. Now I was a level 1 lord with a centaur army, painting the forest red with monster blood. Progress is progress. The drop rates were garbage though. Dozens of monsters killed, and only 9 gold coins fell out. The myriad races continent is stingier than my school cafeteria. At least the spirit energy was flowing steadily. That's the real currency for a lord. Let the gold trickle in. Keep the power flowing, and pray nothing too big notices my tiny little village before I'm ready. Late at night, my centaurs finally came home like teenagers who missed curfew, except instead of excuses they brought loot. Piles of it, sliding off their horsebacks like the world's most disorganized delivery service. Wood, 1,624 pieces. Stone, 735. Iron, 312. Not bad for day 1 of operation. Build something on this sad, empty lot. First order of business, barracks. I fed 300 stone, 250 wood, and 100 iron into the Lord's heart, and whoosh, a massive stone and wood building just grew out of the ground like the world's fastest construction crew on 17 espressos. 100 meters long, 20 meters wide, 5 meters tall. My centaurs finally had a proper home instead of sleeping on dirt like me. Then I built 2 residential houses for future farmers and a wooden fence around the entire territory. The system description for the fence was absolutely savage, a common wooden fence. Don't trust it too much, or you'll sleep forever. Thanks for the confidence boost, universe. The fence alone ate a mountain of wood. I only managed it because my centaurs stumbled into a pack of tree monsters that couldn't run away fast enough. Imagine trees. That move. Getting chopped down by horse people. Nature is weird here. I was totally broke after all this. 20-something gold coins left, which couldn't buy me enough centaurs to fill a small elevator. No farmers recruited, no spirit fields planted, no blacksmith, no tavern, no well, basically still living in a construction zone. But at least it was my construction zone with walls now. Crappy walls, but walls. Here's the thing though. I had 30 days of trial period. 30 days to build up before the real world hits. Veteran lords, hostile races, the whole terrifying buffet of things that want me dead. No more newbie protection after that. Clock was ticking. As the sun went down, my 100 centaurs gathered around campfires in the yard, roasting monster meat on sticks. The smell hit me like a truck made of deliciousness. I suddenly realized I hadn't eaten a single bite since arriving in this world. Almost a full day. My stomach was basically filing a formal complaint. I stood there awkwardly because, embarrassing confession, I, Chun Mingdao, lord of a territory, commander of a centaur army, conqueror of boars, cannot cook. At all. My lord, please. A centaur woman walked up and handed me a perfectly roasted, dripping with juice chunk of meat. She looked different from the others. Her face was more human-like, calm and gentle, maybe like a 30-something human woman. While the rest of my centaurs had angry horseman energy, she had nice aunt at a family barbecue energy. I grabbed that meat and bit into it like a starving wolf. Incredible. Best thing I'd ever tasted, and I grew up eating school cafeteria slop, so the bar was low, but still. What's your name? I asked between bites. Do you remember how you got here? She shook her head sadly. In her memories, she'd died, killed by slave traders while protecting her children. And just like that, the mood got heavy. The textbook mentioned this. The troops summoned by the Lord's heart aren't created from nothing. Many of them actually lived before, died, and were somehow pulled here to serve again. Real people. Well, real centaur people, with real memories and real pain. I looked at her standing there, lost in thought about the children she'd died for, and I quietly chewed my meat. Being a lord isn't just about building walls and merging troops. These are living beings with stories. Sad, complicated stories. But hey, at least the barbecue was phenomenal. I woke up in my Lord's Hall, which is a very generous name for what is basically a wooden shed with delusions of grandeur, and my centaurs were already gone. Good soldiers. I'd told them last night. Go out, expand to 10 kilometers, murder everything that moves, bring me stuff. And they said, yes, my lord. like 100 obedient horse children on a field trip to Slaughter Town. See, there's a race mechanic. First lord to upgrade their territory gets bonus treasure chests. Better chests mean better loot. Hero summon cards, special buildings, weapons, gold. It's basically a cosmic speed run, and I intended to win. Kill notifications started flooding my brain like the world's most violent news ticker. Your centaur killed a level 2 green snake. Your centaur killed a level 1 green snake. Your centaur killed a green snake king. Hundreds of snakes. Just getting absolutely wrecked. My boys were nearly at peak level 3 now from all yesterday's grinding, and these snakes stood about as much chance as a birthday candle in a hurricane. Then, one beautiful notification popped up. You received fine-grade equipment, green snake armor, and actual armor drop. On day 2. That's like finding a designer jacket at a thrift store. I wanted to sell it on the trading platform immediately, but I checked the marketplace first, and tumbleweeds. Nothing good listed anywhere. Just basic junk, firewood, rocks, water. Nobody in our entire zone had anything worth trading yet, which actually made me feel great, because it confirmed something important. No veteran players here. Everyone in Windspeak Wasteland was a newbie, just like me. Same starting line. And I had synthesis. That's like showing up to a foot race wearing rocket boots while everyone else is barefoot. Around noon, I called everyone back and finally built a warehouse. Best decision ever, because now, every time my centaurs killed something out in the field, the loot teleported directly into my storage. No more watching horse people awkwardly juggle iron chunks on their backs like the world's worst moving company. Then I inspected the green snake armor with my appraisal skill and nearly choked. It was a set piece. As in, there's a green snake sword, green snake necklace, green snake ring, and green snake boots out there somewhere. And if I collect all of them, they combine into a super-powered matching outfit. A complete set. Sets are the holy grail of equipment. Back on Blue Star, the most powerful family, the Ying clan, who basically runs our country, got there because one of their warriors collected a full mythic-grade set called the Dragon Set. 9 matching pieces. That one set made them the ruling family of an entire nation. And here I was on day 2, holding the first piece of my own set, grinning like an absolute lunatic. Sure, it was only fine grade. Sure, I needed 4 more pieces that could be literally anywhere in this enormous death continent. Sure, I was still living in a shed surrounded by a fence the system itself told me not to trust. But Chun Mingdao doesn't look at the glass as half empty. Chun Mingdao looks at the glass and thinks, I bet I can synthesize that into a bigger glass. So I had this green snake armor sitting in my hands, and I had a decision to make. Keep it and try to collect the whole set, or sell it and get rich. Easy choice. The set only had 5 pieces, the grade was low, and honestly, I had synthesis. I could make better stuff later. Right now, what I needed was cold, hard gold coins. I slapped that bad boy on the trading platform with a buyout price of 3,000 gold coins. For context, every new lord starts with 1,200. Most fighters got a starter weapon worth maybe, I dunno, a sandwich. 3,000 was basically asking someone to hand over 2.5 newborn kingdoms worth of cash. But here's the thing. Big family kids always smuggle resources into the trial. Daddy's money works across dimensions apparently. Someone out there could afford it. The second it went live, the chat exploded like I'd dropped a bomb into a library. A set piece? On day 2, we're all still level 1 wearing rags, and this guy's selling 5-star equipment. Who the heck is Chun Mingdao? Definitely a lord. Probably has crazy high-tier troops. Everyone was losing their minds. Meanwhile, I'm sitting on the ground in my wooden shack village, watching the chaos unfold like a guy who lit a firework and walked away cool. Then my friend request panel started screaming. Hundreds of requests. Every fancy pants family, heir, and merchant guild rep in the zone suddenly wanted to be my bestie. Join our family. We have resources. Come work with us. Are you a lord? Please respond. Hard pass. Hard pass. Hard pass. Joining a big family means they help you develop your territory, which is code for we slowly take over everything you built, and you become our employee with a fancy title. History. Books were full of lords who got swindled like that. No thanks. Then came the beggars. People claiming to be important heirs demanding I lower the price or just give them the armor. I'm the eldest son of the Wong family. Cool story bro blocked. I represent the Lu Commerce Guild. Fascinating. Blocked. You dare ignore me. Watch me. Blocked. Some of them threw tantrums in the public chat, cursing my name. But before I could even respond, regular players dogpiled them with mockery, so savage I almost felt bad. Almost. Watching entitled rich kids get roasted by a million commoners was the free entertainment I didn't know I needed. I closed the chat, grinning, and got back to work. My warehouse was collecting loot automatically now, beautiful golden flashes every few seconds as monster drops teleported in. Whenever I had enough materials, I'd build another structure, another house, a blacksmith shop, a tavern, a clinic, a training ground. Building after building popped up across my little territory like the world's most aggressive game of SimCity. Each one was basic grade, nothing fancy, but they were mine. A functioning village was taking shape around me, from empty parking lot to actual settlement in just 2 days. Still no special buildings though. No magical fountains, no defensive towers, no cool totem poles. Just regular stuff. The RNG gods gave me the Lord class and synthesis, so apparently they decided to balance it out by making my architecture incredibly boring. Day 2 ended with me sitting outside, watching resources trickle into my warehouse, refreshing the auction to see if anyone had bought the armor yet, and quietly plotting my rise to power. Patience, Chenmingdao. The snowball is still small, but it's rolling. By evening, my territory actually looked like a place. Barracks, houses, warehouse, blacksmith, tavern, clinic, training ground. Well, all arranged in a neat ring around the Lord's Hall like a tiny medieval strip mall. The only thing missing was spirit fields for farming, which cost 200 gold coins I absolutely did not have. My centaurs hadn't found any monster camps either. Monster camps are like jackpot piñatas. Smash one open and resources pour out. But nope. Just endless individual kills with drop rates so pathetic they made me want to write a formal complaint to the universe. Total gold after 2 days of non-stop grinding. 203 coins. 203. My centaurs slaughtered what felt like half the continent's wildlife, and the loot was basically pocket change. This world is cheap. But then I checked my friend requests, and oh boy, the quality of beggars had upgraded significantly. The desperate ones had filtered out, and now actual traders were showing up with real goods. First up, some girl named Wang Mimi, going full flirty with Big Brother. Phone, can you lower the price to 1800 pretty please? I can be sweet or spicy. Ma'am, this is a war economy. Your winks don't pay for centaur food. Then the real offers rolled in, and 4 of them made me sit up straight. A medicine recipe book, hundreds of potion formulas. Extremely useful. Eventually, a city wall blueprint, needed when my territory upgrades to a city. Cool but useless right now. Like buying a yacht when you live in a desert. A flame tower, an actual defense turret that shoots fire at monsters. Very tempting since monster sieges start in 5 days. And then, the big one. A troop summoning card. 3,000 rare-grade black flame demon warriors. 3,000. In one card. My brain short-circuited. 3,000 rare-grade soldiers would be insane for any lord right now. But I thought it through. My village can only hold 120 people. Even if I merged them all with synthesis, the resulting high-tier demons would be a dead-end species I couldn't recruit more of later. My centaur pipeline was renewable. Demons were a one-time sugar rush. I messaged the card owner saying I preferred gold coin offers. And this absolute madman responded by posting his card in the public chat, advertising it as only tradable for my green snake armor. Genius move. He just turned my auction into a bidding war for his item. You sneaky son of a, I muttered, then immediately jacked up my armor's buyout price to 30,000 gold coins. If people wanted his summoning card, they'd have to buy my armor first at the inflated price, then trade it to him. We were basically running a 2-man scam on the entire server, and we'd known each other for 5 minutes. The guy's name was Xiong Tianxiang, from the Xiong family of Haiwa City, one of the top families in all of Dragon Country, right behind the ruling Ying clan. That explained why he treated tens of thousands of gold coins like pocket lint. Rich people built different. He even invited me to join his family after the trial. I politely declined. He said, whatever, like a billionaire who just got told no for maybe the 3rd time in his life. I still couldn't figure out why a guy from that family was so obsessed with a low-grade snake armor though. He could probably wallpaper his bathroom with equipment better than this. Something was off, but I couldn't crack it, so I filed it under mysteries for later and moved on. Half an hour later, ding, a notification chimed in my brain. The snowball just got a little bigger. Ding, your green snake armor has been sold. After 1% transaction fee, 29,700 gold coins received. 29,700 gold coins. I went from 203 coins to almost 30,000 in one notification. That's not a come up, that's a financial resurrection. If there was a Forbes list for the myriad races continent, I just speed ran onto it. The chat was absolutely foaming with rage. People calling me every name in the book. Expected. Deserved, maybe. Did I care? I did not. First purchase, spirit fields for farming. 200 coins. Gotta eat eventually. Then I went shopping. Opened the trading platform and started buying basic materials like a madman at a clearance sale. Wood, stone, iron, bulk orders, bottom prices. 10 pieces for 1 coin. I spent 527 coins and had enough raw materials to upgrade my entire territory. But here's where synthesis turns me into a cheat code. The upgrade needed higher tier materials that cost 7 or 8 times more. So instead of buying expensive stuff, I just bought cheap common grade materials and merged them into the good stuff. It's like buying flour and eggs instead of a cake, except my oven is magical and instant and free. Upgrade territory. The Lord's heart swallowed everything. The ground shook. Golden light erupted everywhere. And when it faded, my 500 by 500 meter parking lot had become a 5 by 5 kilometer spread. That's 100 times bigger. My buildings, which previously filled the whole space, now looked like a tiny cluster of dollhouses in the middle of an enormous field. Slightly embarrassing, honestly. Like moving into a mansion and only furnishing the bathroom. Then the system announcement hit every player in the zone. Lord Chen Mingdao is the first to upgrade to a 2-star village. Reward. Rare grade treasure chest 10 reputation points. A golden pillar of light shot into the sky above my territory like a cosmic spotlight screaming, "This guy right here." The chat went silent. Dead silent. For 10 whole seconds. And then the meltdown. 2 days? He upgraded in 2 days? Did he find an exploit? This isn't a video game, you moron. There are no exploits. Must be from a mega-rich family who smuggled in resources. If that were true, why didn't other rich families upgrade first? He just got lucky with his spawn location. Probably sitting on a gold mine of resource nodes. Humph. Luck runs out. There's limited resources in the trial zone. He won't keep this pace. Then someone dropped the lore bomb. I actually know a Chen Mingdao. He's an orphan from the Magic Martial Academy in Zulong City. A sick kid who barely survived long enough to get teleported here. The chat absolutely could not handle this information. An orphan? A sick orphan did this. Impossible. Heaven can't possibly favor one person this much. I scrolled through their disbelief with the smuggest grin in continental history. If only they knew about synthesis. Their heads would literally explode. Every single one of them was trying to figure out my secret, and they weren't even in the same zip code as the truth. I closed the chat and inspected my new domain. Population cap, 600 now. But I needed to build a ton more structures, extra barracks, 8 more houses, and upgrade existing ones before I could actually use all that space. The upgrade to 3-star village needed double the materials of the last one. But first, treasure chest time. I washed my hands. Yes, I washed my hands before opening a loot box. Superstition? Absolutely. Effective? We're about to find out. Click. You opened a rare grade treasure chest. You received rare grade special building, mysterious cottage, 700 gold coins, a special building. Not just regular boring architecture, a special one. Some lord once got a legendary defense building so powerful that no monster could even approach his territory ever again, and it carried him all the way to legendary status. Mine was called Mysterious Cottage, which sounded less like a war asset and more like a store that sells scented candles. But hey, special is special, and Chen Mingdao doesn't complain about free gifts. Well, not out loud anyway. The mysterious cottage turned out to be a little stone shop with 5 wooden shelves inside, each holding one item that refreshes daily. Like a magical convenience store run by nobody. Seeds, a sword, a skeleton summoning card, a fancy necromancer staff, and healing potions. Decent stuff, but nothing worth buying right now. The necromancer staff was tempting at 1,300 coins, but I needed every coin for my master plan. Besides, after publicly fleecing someone for 30,000 gold with that armor stunt, keeping a low profile seemed wise. Can't be the richest guy in the zone and the loudest. Speaking of rich, let me count my fortune. The armor sale netted me 29,700 coins. Spent 527 upgrading to 2-star village. Got 700 back from the treasure chest, plus whatever my centaurs scraped together from monster hunting. Grand total, 30,119 gold coins. For a former dying orphan, this was basically Bezos money. Time to go absolutely insane. See, here's where synthesis turns economics on its head. A common centaur costs 2 coins. 2 commons merge into 1 fine. 3 fines merge into 1 rare. 4 rares merge into 1 superior. The math works out to 48 coins per superior centaur. Meanwhile, if you could directly recruit a superior soldier, it would cost 200 coins each. I was getting the same product for less than a quarter of the price. Synthesis isn't just a talent. It's a wholesale discount from the gods. My village could now hold 600 people. I wanted 500 superior grade centaur warriors, keeping space for farmers later. Quick napkin math. 500 superiors would cost about 22,800 coins through my recruit and merge assembly line. That left over 7,000 coins for future upgrades. Perfect. I activated the Lord's Heart. The golden portal ripped open again, and common centaurs started pouring out like a horse-person factory on overdrive. Batch after batch, hundreds of them filling up the open field, looking confused and scared and very, very common grade. Then I hit them with synthesis. Golden light from my eyes. Flash. Merge. Flash. Merge. Commons became fine. Fine became rare. I was running a military-industrial blender, and living beings were the ingredients. If I thought about it too hard, it was deeply disturbing. So I simply chose not to think about it too hard. Leadership requires tough decisions. That's what I told myself while watching sentient creatures dissolve into golden sparkles and recombine into stronger versions. When my original 100 rare centaurs came back from hunting, dusty and tired, I looked at them and felt a tiny pang of guilt. These guys had been with me since day one. They'd fought boars and snakes and goblins for me. They'd brought me food when I was too useless to cook. I hesitated for exactly 2 seconds. Then I merged them too. In my defense, I used them as the base templates, meaning their consciousness and intelligence would be preserved in the upgraded versions. The other 400 centaurs mixed in were basically strangers, dirty half-beast creatures I'd known for approximately 90 seconds. Totally fine. Not morally questionable at all. I'm a great leader. The golden light faded, and 500 brand-new superior-grade centaurs stood before me. My jaw hit the floor. The males were massive, 5 meters long, horse body over 2 meters tall, human torso adding another 1.5 meters. Every single one was a walking fortress of muscle wrapped in thick black fur and encased in heavy iron plate armor. They carried enormous 2-handed battle axes, war hammers, and polearms that gleamed with deadly sharpness. They looked less like cavalry and more like biological tanks someone had strapped medieval weapons onto. If intimidation were a sport, these guys would be Olympic champions. But the females? Oh no, the females. How do I say this without sounding like a complete degenerate? They had evolved significantly in ways I was not prepared for. Where the males got bulkier and hairier, the female centaurs went the opposite direction. Their bodies became sleek, graceful, almost elegant, 3 meters long, proportioned like athletes, with smooth skin that literally glowed with a soft luminescence. No body hair whatsoever except for flowing locks on their heads. Their horse legs had become more humanoid, more refined. They wore fitted leather armor with chain mail over the important bits, but the coverage was, shall we say, strategically minimal. They looked like something out of a fantasy painting designed specifically to short-circuit the brain of an 18-year-old boy, which is exactly what happened. I just stood there, mouth slightly open, brain completely offline. My eyes glazed over. My feet started moving on their own. I was walking toward one of them in a trance, like a moth heading for the most beautiful and confusing lamp in existence. I didn't even realize what was happening until my hand was literally touching one of their hooves, and a very flustered female centaur was stammering, "My lord, you're..." I snapped back to reality. looked at my hand, looked at the hoof, looked at 250 female centaurs staring at me with expressions ranging from confused to alarmed. My face turned the color of a tomato that was already embarrassed about something else. I was inspecting the armor quality. I announced to nobody who believed me. Standard leadership procedure. Very normal. I turned around and walked away with whatever dignity I had left, which was none. Zero dignity. Negative dignity. I had somehow become a lord with 30,000 gold coins, 500 elite warriors, a territory the size of a small city, and absolutely no ability to control myself around attractive horsewomen. 18 years old. Tumor survivor. Orphan. Lord. Military genius. Absolute disaster around women. That's Qin Dao for you. But real talk. 500 superior grade heavy cavalry? In the first 2 days of the trial? Most lords couldn't recruit 500 common troops by now, let alone superior ones. The guys with legendary or mythic starter troops might have 10, maybe 20 soldiers total because of how expensive they are to recruit. I had 500 war machines ready to flatten anything in their path. Quantity has a quality all its own, and thanks to synthesis, I had both. I straightened my collar, avoided eye contact with every female centaur in existence, and prepared to send my beautiful, terrifying, deeply confusing army out to conquer the wilderness. Day 2 wasn't even over yet, and Qin Dao was just getting started. I pulled up the stat panel on the female centaur who'd given me barbecue on day 1. She'd survived every merge cycle because I used her as a base template, and now she was something else entirely. Superior grade Centaur Warden. Level 5. Ranger class. Dual light swords, a Windchaser longbow, leather, and chain armor combo. Her stats were absolutely bonkers. Nearly 1,500 in agility alone. Growth potential, demigod. The system described her rank as leadership class, with high intelligence and masterful combat skills. A far cry from the treat them like animals description her common grade ancestors got. 5 superior females could merge into one epic grade centaur chieftain. I filed that away for later and focused on the present. From today, your name is Cellophine. I announced with what I hoped was kingly authority. You command all female centaurs. Her face, which already looked remarkably human and beautiful, turned bright red. She knelt and thanked me with genuine emotion. I may have given her a little beckoning finger gesture afterward, just to see the blush deepen. Pure scientific curiosity. Nothing more. I am a serious military leader conducting serious leadership activities. Then I turned to the male centaurs. Their representative was equally impressive, superior grade heavy armored warrior. Same level, similar stats, but tilted toward raw physical power instead of speed. He carried a massive iron flail and wore plate armor so thick he looked like someone had welded a tank onto a horse. Growth potential also demigod. Interesting pattern. Males became warriors, females became rangers. The continent apparently believed in gender-based career counseling. Progressive? No. Efficient? Absolutely. My heavy cavalry would smash through front lines while my ranger corps rained arrows from behind. Classic hammer and anvil tactics, except the hammer weighs 2 tons and the anvil shoots you in the face. Your name is Cello. You command all male centaurs. Yes, my lord. Thank you for the name and the promotion. I sent everyone to prepare dinner. Campfires lit up across the territory, meat sizzling, the smell of roasted monster flesh filling the evening air. As night fell, troops filtered into the barracks and training grounds to rest. A peaceful end to a productive day. Now, about what happened that night. I want to be perfectly transparent here because honesty is important. Cellophine came to the Lord's Hall for a report, an official military report. That is what it was. We discussed troop formations and strategic deployments and other completely professional topics. Did she stay the entire night? Technically, yes. Were my hands behaving themselves? Technically, no. But I want to emphasize that nothing actually happened. My hands just went on a little unauthorized exploration mission across some very interesting terrain. Cellophine made some sounds that could be interpreted as either protest or encouragement, and I chose to interpret them as encouragement because I am an optimist. The next morning, she bolted out of the Lord's Hall at dawn, clutching her chest armor and frantically fixing her disheveled equipment, checking left and right to make sure nobody saw her. I heard her hissing to herself about certain areas being swollen, and I decided that was my cue to wait 5 minutes before casually strolling outside with the most innocent expression I could manufacture. What? I'm 18. I just got a new body. My previous life was nothing but tumor pain and hospital soup. A man has needs. And also curiosity. Lots of curiosity about horsewomen anatomy. For science. Anyway, day 3. Business time. For real this time. The war horn sounded and all 500 superior centaurs assembled and split into 2 hunting squads, fanning out around the territory in a massive sweep. Kill notifications started immediately, faster and more valuable than before. Level 3 goblins dropping 6 gold coins each. Yes, please. My army was chewing through the local monster population like a lawnmower through wet grass. I ate leftover cold barbecue for breakfast because my cooking skills remained at a firm 0, then got to work building. New barracks first, since my troops needed sleeping quarters. Then a training ground, which gave a 20% boost to cultivation. Both ate through my remaining stone and wood supplies completely. The upgrade path to 3-star village was becoming clear. I needed a second barracks, a training ground, 8 more residential houses, another well for spirit fields, and enough 3-star materials to fuel the actual upgrade. That meant converting basic materials through synthesis again, which meant I needed my centaurs to bring home mountains of resources. Hard requirements, but manageable, especially since nobody else had even reached 2-star yet. The public announcement board was silent. No second upgrader. No competition. I was running this race alone, which meant every upgrade milestone treasure chest had my name on it. With 7,000 gold coins still in my pocket, I felt comfortable. Not relaxed, never relaxed, but comfortable. The plan was clear. Keep hunting, keep collecting, keep building, keep merging. The snowball was picking up speed and mass, and I intended to ride it straight to the top. Around noon, something shifted inside me. A burst of searing heat erupted from my lower abdomen and flooded outward through my entire body. Every muscle fiber tightened and released. My bones felt denser, my senses sharper, my reflexes quicker. The spiritual energy my troops had been feeding me through their kills had finally accumulated enough. Level 2. I advanced to the second tier. 2 days ago, I was an ordinary person who had never thrown a punch. Now I could probably punch through a wall. Not that I planned to test that theory on my own buildings. I'd just spent all my resources constructing them. The leveling speed was ridiculous. Most combat professionals needed to personally hunt hundreds of monsters over weeks to advance once. I sat in my village eating cold meat and letting my army do all the work, and I leveled up in roughly a day. The Lord class was supposed to be weak in personal combat, but if my troops kept killing at this rate, I'd outpace most fighters purely through passive experience absorption. Weak in combat? Maybe. But I had 500 elite soldiers earning experience points for me around the clock, a synthesis talent that broke every economic rule in existence, a territory expanding faster than anyone thought possible, and a female centaur commander who was apparently very forgiving about wandering hands. Day 3 of the trial. Chun Mingdao, Level 2 Lord, 30,000 coins deep, 500 superior warriors strong, 0 cooking ability, and 1 deeply confused centaur lady trying to pretend last night didn't happen. The continent wasn't ready for me. Honestly, I wasn't ready for me either. Let me explain something about being a lord, because people seem to think it's all sitting around eating barbecue while your troops do everything. They're right. That's exactly what it is. And it's glorious. My personal strength grows 2 ways. First, my quality rating upgrades automatically whenever my territory levels up. Village equals common quality. Town equals fine. So basically, the bigger my real estate portfolio, the better my stats become. Second, actual combat power, the leveling system everyone shares, comes from spiritual energy fed back whenever my troops kill stuff. 1 kill equals 1 tiny trickle. But multiply that by 500 elite centaurs massacring everything within 10 kilometers, and the trickles become a river. My centaurs had slaughtered tens of thousands of monsters in 2.5 days just to push me to level 2. Sounds slow, right? But combat professionals have it worse. They have to personally fight every single monster, risk their own necks, and still grind just as hard. I did it while eating cold meat and contemplating centaur anatomy. Efficiency, people. That's what leadership looks like. I clenched my fists and felt the power coursing through my upgraded body. After years of being too weak to open a jar, this feeling was intoxicating. Every flex, every breath, every heartbeat screamed that I was alive, strong, and getting stronger. The sick orphan was dead. Shun Mingdao the Lord was very much alive and absolutely addicted to gaining power. I checked the trading platform. Things were picking up across the zone. More variety, more sellers, decent quantity of basic materials. Common-grade wood, stone, and iron still cost about 1 coin per 10 units. Cheap as dirt. Literally dirt-adjacent materials at dirt-adjacent prices. But anything 2-star quality or above, gone within seconds. I watched 27 batches of 2-star materials get listed and snatched up before I could even blink. Some at outrageous prices. Didn't matter. Those big family kids with their imported wallets were vacuuming up everything. This was the invisible war I was fighting. Those wealthy clan heirs had resources prepared specifically for the possibility of getting Lord class. Stockpiles of materials, gold reserves, troop summoning cards. All smuggled in through whatever methods their families had developed over 10,000 years. Once the 30-day trial ended and they reconnected with their families, their development would explode. I had nobody. No family. No backup. No safety net. Just synthesis and pure stubborn determination. But synthesis was enough. While they fought over expensive 2-star materials, I bought mountains of cheap 1-star garbage and merged it into whatever I needed. They spent 100 coins for what cost me 12. The math was my unfair advantage, and I intended to squeeze every drop of value from it before anybody figured out how I was moving so fast. I went on a spending spree. Thousands of coins converted into basic materials, all fed through synthesis into 3-star quality for the village upgrade. By the time I'd finished shopping, I had most of what I needed to push to 3-star large village. Just needed a bit more from my centaur's hunting runs. Then, around noon, Cellophine came galloping back to the village at full speed, cheeks flushed, though at this point her cheeks were permanently flushed around me for reasons I will not elaborate on. My lord, we found a large goblin camp. Over 1,000 goblins. Most of them level 4 or 5, well-armed, a large camp. Finally, monster camps were resource gold mines. One successful raid could supply more materials than days of individual hunting. This was exactly what I needed to finish my upgrade. Take me there, I said immediately. I want to personally oversee this operation. Cellophine's expression shifted from military efficiency to something softer. She bent her horse legs down and lowered herself, offering her back as a mount. Climb on, my lord. I'll carry you. Awkward. Very awkward. I climbed onto her horseback, trying to figure out where to put my hands. I chose poorly, or brilliantly, depending on perspective. Cellophine shuddered, nearly stumbled, and then took off running at full speed while I held on for dear life with hands that were definitely not where they should have been. In my defense, there were no seatbelts. Safety first requires a firm grip. I was being responsible. We had 7 days of newbie protection, meaning nobody except my own troops could enter my territory. That's why I felt safe leaving. The base was untouchable. The only risk was out here in the wild, and with 500 superior-grade warriors surrounding me, that risk was approximately 0. The goblin camp appeared through the trees about 20 minutes later. And oh, it was disgusting. 3 kilometers of pure nightmare fuel. Broken tents, rotting wooden shacks, excrement everywhere, gnawed bones scattered around like confetti at a cannibal's birthday party. The stench hit me from 100 meters away. I've smelled bad things before. Hospital antiseptic, cafeteria mystery meat, my own sick body for years. But this was championship-level awful. My eyes literally watered. And the goblins themselves? Revolting. About 1 meter tall, dark green wrinkly skin, pointed ears, glowing red eyes, mouths full of jagged fangs, screaming like deranged toddlers who'd been raised by wolverines. They wore scraps of animal hide and carried wooden clubs bigger than their own heads. The funniest part? They looked at my centaurs, 5-meter-tall ironclad war machines, and charged at them like they were the predators. These little green idiots genuinely believed they were about to eat my soldiers for lunch. The audacity, the absolute delusion. My male centaurs crashed into them like bowling balls into particularly ugly pins. Iron flails swinging, war hammers dropping, hoof stomping. Goblins were being turned into paste, puddles, and abstract art. Everywhere I looked, another cluster of green bodies went flying or got crushed flat. The female centaurs hung back like proper professionals, unlimbering their longbows and unleashing sheets of arrows that turned the sky dark. Each volley deleted dozens of goblins simultaneously. The arrows punched through goblin skulls, chests, and shields with equal ease. The camp became a slaughterhouse in seconds. Goblin screams filled the air from every direction. Not my soldiers' screams. Never my soldiers' screams. The power difference was hilarious and horrifying in equal measure. But then I noticed something concerning. On a raised platform in the center of the camp, an ancient-looking goblin was performing some kind of frenzied dance. Twisting, writhing, waving gnarled hands. Strange energy rippled outward from its body, covering the entire camp like an invisible blanket. Wherever this energy touched, the goblins became more aggressive, more reckless, more willing to throw themselves at my centaurs regardless of the obvious death awaiting them. A shaman, or a witch doctor. Some kind of magical support unit buffing the entire army. I watched a goblin with 3 arrows in its chest ignore its wounds and leap at a male centaur's face, only to get swatted away like a mosquito. The buff wasn't making them stronger, just crazier. Which, when you have 1,000 of them, could actually become a problem through sheer suicidal volume. That wrinkly old green freak on the platform needed to die first. I pointed at it and opened my mouth to give the order. Quick biology lesson about goblins that nobody asked for, but everyone needs to hear. These little green nightmares are an all-male species. Every single one. No goblin women exist anywhere. So how do they reproduce? They kidnap females from other races. Yeah, every species in the myriad races continent hates goblins, and honestly, that's the most reasonable universal opinion I've ever encountered. They make cockroaches look dignified. The boss of this particular garbage heap was an ancient goblin shaman dancing on a raised platform like a deranged puppet with its strings tangled. I used my appraisal skill and got the readout. Goblin High Priest, rare grade, level 5. Stats decent, but nothing spectacular. His skills included something called Frenzy War Dance, which explained why every goblin in the camp was charging my centaurs like they'd collectively decided today was a good day to become paste. A rare-grade goblin was actually unusual. According to the textbook, goblins are literally the second worst species in existence, barely above slimes on the universal tier list. Finding a rare one was like discovering a cockroach wearing a tiny crown. Impressive for a cockroach, still absolutely disgusting. I didn't even need to give a complicated order. Cello, my male centaur commander, just bellowed one word. Formation. 250 ironclad male centaurs snapped into 3 perfect rows. Green wind energy swirled around their bodies. Then they charged. Have you ever watched a combine harvester go through a wheat field? Now imagine the wheat is screaming. The harvester weighs 10 tons, and there are 250 of them running in parallel. That's what happened to the goblin camp. Tents, shacks, goblins, furniture, garbage piles, everything in their path turned to powder. They swept back and forth across the camp like they were plowing farmland, except instead of soil they were turning up goblin remains. 5 passes. That's all it took. 5 cavalry charges and a 3-kilometer camp containing over 1,000 goblins ceased to exist as a functional location. The high priest lasted about 4 seconds. Cello personally caved in his skull with an iron flail, and then his centaurs trampled the body into something I couldn't identify anymore. Not that I wanted to identify it. I was busy trying not to vomit from the smell. The female centaurs didn't even get to do much. They fired a few arrow volleys at stragglers trying to flee, but the males had already handled 90% of the work. My ranger corps looked almost disappointed, like kids who showed up to a birthday party after the cake was already eaten. Then the system notification hit. Congratulations. First time destroying a wild goblin monster camp. Choose. 1. Occupy the camp and recruit goblins as troops. 2. Destroy the camp. Destroy, I said before the system even finished the second option. Recruit goblins? Are you kidding me? I wouldn't recruit goblins if they came with a free mansion and lifetime supply of gold coins. They're disgusting, stupid, morally reprehensible creatures whose primary life activities include kidnapping, eating garbage, and defecating wherever they please. Hard pass. Universe-shattering hard pass. Besides, occupying a wild camp meant stationing guards there and paying higher recruitment costs. Terrible investment. I'd rather burn it down and move on, which is exactly what happened. As a reward for first-time camp destruction, you receive an upgraded treasure chest, superior grade. A pillar of golden light descended from the sky, and a gorgeous purple glowing chest materialized before me. Behind it, the ruined camp shimmered with rainbow light as the land prepared to eventually respawn new monsters. Could be goblins again, could be something else. I mentally bookmarked the location for future farming and told my centaurs to keep hunting in the area. Then I climbed back onto Cellophane for the ride home. The return trip involved what I will diplomatically describe as another incident of hand placement uncertainty. By the time we reached the village, Cellophane's face was so red she could have guided ships through fog. I dismounted with the casual confidence of a man who definitely had his hands in appropriate locations the entire time. Nobody could prove otherwise. Back in my territory, I pulled the superior chest from my personal storage space. Every lord gets a small inventory pocket for carrying miscellaneous items. Nothing huge, but enough for treasure chests and snacks, which are the two most important things in any leader's toolkit. The chest was beautiful up close. Purple light pulsing through ornate metalwork. I cracked it open and purple radiance erupted outward, revealing the contents in dramatic silhouette before solidifying into actual items. 9,999 gold coins. The maximum possible roll for a superior chest. I nearly passed out. Gold coins were the lifeblood of my entire operation. With synthesis, I didn't need rare materials. I just needed mountains of cheap basic stuff, and gold bought that in unlimited quantities. This single chest just turbocharged my development timeline by days. But wait, there was more. A half-beast totem pole, a rare-grade special structure that permanently boosted all half-beast troop stats by 5% across all 4 attributes. Since centaurs are classified as half-beasts, this was literally custom-made for my army. 5% doesn't sound like much until you multiply it across 500 warriors and factor in that it stacks with future totems. And finally, 100 units each of superior-grade stone, wood, and iron. Premium building materials I wouldn't even need to synthesize. I immediately built the totem pole next to the Lord's heart. A 10-meter-tall stone pillar carved with primal patterns rose from the ground, radiating ancient energy. The moment it activated, all 500 of my centaurs out in the field simultaneously felt the power surge. Their stats jumped. Their morale skyrocketed. The kill notification speed in my brain doubled instantly. They were butchering monsters with renewed enthusiasm, like someone had injected caffeine directly into their weapons. I couldn't stop grinning. Then I opened the trading platform and swept up every cheap material available, converting gold into resources at maximum efficiency. The other lords were still fighting over scarce 2-star materials, while I happily bought 1-star trash by the truckload and merged it into whatever I needed. Day 3 was nearly over. According to the textbook, this was roughly when other lords should start upgrading their territories for the first time. I wanted to see just how many lords existed in our zone and what kind of competition I was actually facing. Because right now, sitting on almost 20,000 gold coins with a 500-strong superior army boosted by a totem pole, I felt less like a competitor and more like a final boss that showed up to the tutorial level. But overconfidence kills lords faster than goblins. So I watched the chat feed and waited for the announcements to start rolling in. I scrolled through the chat logs looking for anything useful and found absolutely nothing. Just rich kids from powerful families posting the intellectual equivalent of empty potato chip bags. Decades of accumulated wealth and knowledge. And these silver spoon warriors were using the chat like a social media feed for bragging about their breakfast. See, here's the dirty truth about big families. Most of them don't even try during the 30-day trial. Their strategy is literally survive, come home, get family resources afterward. So half these privileged heirs were just lounging around in chat, treating the most dangerous period of their lives like summer vacation. Some families did push their kids to fight, obviously. You don't stay powerful for 10,000 years by raising cowards. But the majority? Tourists with trust funds. Then, near evening on day 3, the first announcement dropped. Congratulations to Lord Ingshui, second to upgrade to medium village. Reward, fine-grade treasure chest, Ing family. Of course it was the Ing family. The ruling dynasty of Dragon Country, the most powerful clan on Blue Star, the family whose patriarch collected a full mythic-grade equipment set and basically became a god. Their kids probably entered the trial with enough resources to build a small city from scratch. Second place for them was probably embarrassing. A fine-grade chest, though. That was basically a participation trophy compared to what I got for first place. Almost felt bad for her. Almost. Then I remembered the Ing family could buy and sell my entire existence without checking their bank balance, and the sympathy evaporated instantly. Now here's where I had a decision to make. I was sitting on a mountain of 3-star materials, freshly synthesized from cheap 1-star garbage I'd been hoarding. Enough to upgrade my village to 3-star large village right now. The question was, should I wait? Let more people catch up, create some distance between announcements so I didn't look so suspiciously fast? I thought about it for approximately 3 seconds. Nah, speed was everything. Every upgrade milestone I hit first meant another treasure chest, more gold, more resources, more momentum. The snowball doesn't wait for people's feelings. The snowball rolls. I dumped 2,400 units each of 3-star stone, wood, and iron into the Lord's heart and spoke the magic words. Upgrade territory. The earth shook. Light exploded. My village transformed for the 3rd time. When the glow faded, I was standing in a territory stretching 10 kilometers in every direction. Population capacity, 1,200. The next upgrade target was a small town, requiring mid-tier materials I hadn't even started collecting yet. But that was tomorrow's problem. Today's victory was right here, gleaming under the evening sky. My timing was absolutely impeccable, because the system announcement hit the public chat at the exact same moment some guy named Fong Yu was getting congratulated for being the 6th person to reach Medium Village. His announcement literally got cut off mid-sentence by mine. Congratulations to Lord Chun Mingdao, first to upgrade to Large Village. Reward, Superior Grade Treasure Chest 20 Reputation Points, Golden Light Pillar. Purple glowing chest descending from the heavens. The whole dramatic spectacle. Again. For the 2nd time in 2 days. While everyone else was still celebrating reaching the level I'd already passed, the chat went silent. Complete cardiac arrest level silence. I could practically hear a million people blinking at their screens. Then the question marks started raining down like confused confetti. Did I just read Large Village? 3-star? On day 3, yesterday he hit 2-star, today 3-star. Is he speedrunning this thing? That's impossible. It normally takes at least a week to gather enough resources. Is Chun Mingdao the continent's favorite child or something? Blue Star has never recorded upgrade speeds this fast. Then came my favorite part, the manipulation attempts. Some genius in the chat decided to pull the patriotism card. Chun Mingdao, come out and share your development strategy. For the glory of Dragon Country. Yes. Don't be selfish. Share your methods for the good of our nation. We all deserve to know. Oh sure. Share my secret. Tell everyone about synthesis, so every family in Dragon Country can figure out how to replicate it, study it, and then send their kids into future trials with strategies designed to counter mine. For the good of the nation, right? And I'm sure those families asking would totally share their 10,000-year-old secret techniques with a random orphan if the situation were reversed. Absolutely. 100%. I believe that completely. I didn't respond. Not a single word. Let them scream into the void. What these entitled people couldn't tolerate was someone beneath them standing above them. These were heirs and nobles and merchant princes who'd spent their entire lives looking down at people like me. An orphan from a magic academy outpacing the ruling family's own daughter? That wasn't inspiring to them. It was threatening. So they wrapped their nosiness in patriotic language and pretended they were asking for everyone's benefit. Classic manipulation, older than civilization itself. After about 30 minutes of me ignoring them, the noise died down. Some switched tactics and started sending friend requests to other professionals in the chat, trying to recruit followers for their families while attention was elsewhere. Always networking, always scheming. Human nature at its finest and most exhausting. More upgrade announcements trickled in over the next few hours. Lord number 8, 9, 10, all reaching Medium Village, all getting basic common grade chests, and a single reputation point. Looking at the names, nearly every single one screamed old money. Lin, Hu, Zhang, all major family surnames. All carried resources into the trial by their clans, who paid extra fees to the National Teleportation Array just to smuggle in supplies. Regular people could barely afford to bring food and water. These kids showed up with starter kits worth more than my entire previous life. And yet here I was, an orphan with zero family backing, sitting 2 full village tiers above every single one of them. In a fair world, they'd have every advantage. Better troops, better gear, better knowledge, better everything. But Chun Mingdao doesn't live in a fair world. Chun Mingdao lives in a world where one broken talent, called synthesis, turns economic rules into suggestions. Where buying garbage and merging it into gold is not just possible, but laughably easy. Where the poorest lord on the continent can outbuild the richest because the system didn't account for someone who could bypass the entire resource hierarchy. I picked up my new superior-grade treasure chest, felt its weight in my hands, and smiled. 10 lords had upgraded. 9 of them had family empires behind them. One of them had nothing but cleverness, stubbornness, and magic eyeball beams that turned trash into treasure. Guess which one was winning? Let me explain why everyone in the chat wanted to strangle me, and why I completely understood, but also completely did not care. Reputation points. That's the real prize for upgrading first. Not the treasure chests, not the gold, reputation. Because later on, when your territory reaches certain levels, you literally cannot upgrade without enough reputation. It's the ultimate bottleneck. And the first person to upgrade gets the most points, with each subsequent person getting less. So every point I scooped up was 1 fewer point available for everyone else's precious family heirs. No wonder they were furious. I was eating their future lunch and asking for seconds. But sentiment doesn't build empires, so I cracked open my new superior-grade treasure chest without a shred of guilt. Purple light erupted. Shadows of items materialized. The glow faded, and the system announced my haul. A cultivation manual called Magic Martial Secret Records, an equipment blueprint called Magic Martial Set Equipment Atlas, and 1,111 gold coins. My face fell faster than a goblin hit by a warhammer. No resource packs, no massive gold jackpot, no troop summoning cards. I needed materials to keep building, and instead the universe handed me homework and arts and crafts instructions. I picked up the cultivation manual first. Superior grade could train me all the way to king-level realm. Magic and martial dual cultivation, supposedly powerful. Sounds amazing, right? Wrong. It was a fragment, a torn piece of some allegedly divine scripture. The description cheerfully noted that if I collected all the pieces, I could cultivate all the way to godhood. If I found the rest. Somewhere. On an infinite continent. Where countless civilizations have risen and fallen across unknowable eons. Every person on Blue Star knows the cardinal rule of cultivation manuals. Never practice an incomplete divine scripture. Ever. You'll train for centuries, hit the ceiling, and spend the rest of your immortal life wandering around desperately searching for Volume 2 like a man who lost his car keys except the parking lot is the size of a galaxy. I tossed the thick book aside like yesterday's newspaper. A dog wouldn't pick this thing up. A dog would sniff it, judge me for owning it, and walk away with its dignity intact. Then I checked the equipment atlas. Another fragment, naturally, because today's theme was apparently incomplete things that promise the world and deliver frustration. But, and this is the but that changed everything. This one was actually useful. The magic martial set had 9 pieces: golden martial sword, golden magic staff, golden splendor crown, golden scale armor, golden magic robe, golden python belt, golden sun necklace, golden dragon ring, and golden spirit boots. The atlas showed exactly what materials were needed to forge each piece at each quality tier. Common grade needed common materials, fine needed fine, and so on up to superior. The incomplete part just meant I couldn't forge the mythic grade version without finding more pages. The lower tiers? Completely craftable right now. I stared at those material lists for about 10 seconds before my brain detonated with the most beautiful realization I'd had since arriving on this continent. What if I forged dozens of common grade sets and synthesized them into higher grade sets? The thought hit me like a centaur at full gallop. I'd been thinking too small this entire time. Synthesis wasn't just for merging troops and building materials. It worked on equipment, on potions, on everything. Think about it. What do combat professionals need more than anything? Weapons and armor. They break gear fighting monsters. They outgrow gear when they level up. The demand is literally infinite and constant. If I recruited blacksmiths, had them forge mountains of cheap common-grade weapons, then merged those into fine, rare, superior, and beyond, I'd have an endless supply of high-grade equipment that cost me basically nothing to produce. And it didn't stop there. Potions? Forge basic healing potions and merge them into advanced ones. Crop seeds? Plant cheap seeds. Harvest? Merge the crops into premium food. Building materials? Already doing that, but I could scale it up massively with dedicated farmers and craftsmen. The profit margins were insane. A common sword costs practically nothing to make. A superior sword sells for hundreds of gold. And all I needed to bridge that gap was my eyeball laser beam and zero shame about merging perfectly good swords into better swords. I sat there for 2, maybe 3 hours, plans cascading through my mind like a waterfall of greed and ambition. Trade networks, manufacturing pipelines, agricultural empires, equipment monopolies. Every idea spawned 3 more ideas, each more ridiculously profitable than the last. I was so deep in thought that I didn't even notice 500 centaurs returning from their hunting expedition until the ground started shaking under their hooves. I snapped back to reality, ate dinner, and escorted a very bashful cellophane back to the Lord's Hall for another evening of completely professional leadership activities. Morning came. She bolted out at dawn again, face blazing red, and immediately rallied her troops for hunting with unprecedented enthusiasm. Cello, my male commander, watched her sprint past with his jaw hanging open, clearly wondering what kind of motivational technique I was using on his colleague. Whatever. Leadership takes many forms. Not all of them are in the textbooks. With the territory empty and quiet, I realized my critical weakness: 0 farmers. I had 500 warriors and not a single person tending crops, forging weapons, brewing potions, or doing literally anything besides killing monsters. My territory had a blacksmith shop with no blacksmith, a clinic with no doctor, a tavern with no bartender, and 10 spirit fields with no farmers. It was like owning a shopping mall where every store was permanently closed. Time to fix that. I walked to the Lord's Heart and recruited 100 farmers at 5 gold coins each. 500 coins vanished and out-shuffled the most underwhelming group of humans I'd ever seen. Thin, ordinary, unremarkable. The system descriptions were brutally honest: an ordinary weak farmer. Remember to feed them, or you'll lose them. Not even a backhanded compliment. Just a warning that they'd literally die if I forgot about them. I inspected all 100, hoping to find hidden gems among the mediocrity. Out of the entire batch, exactly 3 had special skills. 2 had a farming talent that boosted crop growth and yield by a whopping 1% each. 1 had an alchemy talent that improved potion success rate and output by 1%. 1%. 1. That's not a talent. That's a rounding error. That's the universe giving someone a gift and wrapping it in an apology. These were the special ones. The other 97 had nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just the ability to exist, eat food, and hopefully not die. But you know what? I had synthesis. And if merging common centaurs made superior centaurs, then maybe merging useless farmers would make slightly less useless farmers. And slightly less useless farmers could be merged into actually useful farmers. And actually useful farmers could be merged into master craftsmen, legendary alchemists, and agricultural gods. The assembly line doesn't judge quality at the starting point. It only cares about the finished product. I assigned farmers to their posts, distributed food rations, and started planning the next phase of my economic empire. Chun Mingdao, Lord, Centaur Commander, amateur economist, aspiring monopolist, and the worst-kept secret on the entire Windspeak wasteland. Day 4 had just begun, and I already had 17 new plans to break the continental economy over my knee. Farmers cost 5 gold coins each to recruit. 5 coins for 1 scrawny human who might die if I forget to feed them. Highway robbery. But I needed workers with special talents, and the only way to find talented ones was to recruit a massive pile of mediocre ones and dig through them like a prospector, panning for gold in a river of disappointment. So I recruited batch after batch, inspected every single one for hidden talents, kept the special ones, and fed the rest into the synthesis meat grinder. After burning through a disgusting amount of gold coins, I had my dream team: 10 rare-grade blacksmiths, 10 rare-grade pharmacists, 10 rare-grade cooks, and 30 rare-grade farmers. Every single one synthesized from dozens of common-grade nobodies who individually had talents so small they were basically decorative. But stack enough 1% bonuses together through merging, and suddenly you've got craftsmen who actually know what they're doing. Phase 1 of Operation Become Obscenely Wealthy was complete. Now I needed blueprints. I checked the mysterious cottage first. 5 shelves, 5 items, all weapons and high-grade materials. Nothing useful for my manufacturing empire. Thanks for nothing, magic convenience store. I swear that building has a personal vendetta against giving me what I actually need. Then I hit the trading platform and started hunting. Recipe books, forging manuals, cooking guides, anything that could teach my craftsmen how to mass-produce goods. After an agonizing shopping spree that felt like watching my gold coins commit suicide one by one, I'd spent nearly 3,000 coins on 3 essential manuals. First, a weapons and armor forging atlas containing over 1,000 common-grade equipment designs for every combat class imaginable. Swords for swordsmen, staves for mages, bows for hunters. The complete catalog of pointy things people use to not die. Second, a pharmaceutical encyclopedia with 40 or 50 potion and pill recipes. Healing potions, mana recovery, antidotes, cultivation boosters. Basic but essential stuff that every fighter desperately needs. Third, a spiritual cooking compendium with 20-something recipes for magical food that could actually boost the eater's physical attributes over time. I handed these manuals to my craftsmen and watched their eyes light up like children receiving presents. Then I dumped every usable material from my warehouse onto their workbenches, low-grade ores, monster parts, herbs, meat, vegetables, and told them to start practicing. Everything they produced would be raw material for synthesis anyway, so quality barely mattered. Quantity was king. 5,000 gold coins invested total. My remaining balance had shrunk to under 4,000. Watching that number plummet made my left eye twitch involuntarily. If these craftsmen turned out to be incompetent, if the products were unusable, if my entire manufacturing plan fell apart, I'd have burned half my fortune on a glorified arts and crafts project. The anxiety was real. My stomach hurt. And not the old tumor pain either. Pure financial terror. I distracted myself by continuing to build up my territory. Large village needed tons of new construction. For barracks to house 480 soldiers, 40 residential buildings for 800 civilians, plus more spirit fields, wells, and upgrades to everything. The material consumption was eye-watering. And the worst part? To advance from large village to small town, I needed a stone wall blueprint to build proper city defenses. Without that specific blueprint, the upgrade was literally impossible. And I didn't have one. Couldn't find one on the market either. So I built everything else I could and tried not to think about the wall problem. One crisis at a time. Then, around noon, footsteps approached. My head blacksmith came running over, drenched in sweat, cradling a freshly forged sword like a newborn baby. He presented it with trembling hands. I appraised it immediately. Green steel sword. Common grade. Wearable by level 2 and below. Body attribute +5, agility +1. No special skills. The system note said it was sharp and warned me not to cut myself, which frankly felt like the universe questioning my intelligence. Mediocre stats. Expected for common grade. But I didn't need these swords to be good. I needed them to exist in large enough quantities to feed into synthesis. This sword wasn't a product, it was an ingredient. I told the blacksmith to keep forging nothing but green steel swords. Maximum quantity, minimum breaks, don't even think about variety. He saluted and sprinted back to the smithy. Seconds later, hammering sounds erupted like a heavy metal concert performed entirely on anvils. I gave identical orders to the pharmacists and cooks. Mass produce. One recipe. Don't stop. Don't think. Just make. By midday they came back, and I nearly fell over. 506 common-grade green steel swords. 800 common-grade mana recovery potions. Over 1,800 common-grade spiritual meal sets. In one morning, these rare-grade craftsmen were absolute machines. They'd chewed through almost every material I'd given them and converted it into a mountain of finished goods piled across the open ground. I stared at the heap of merchandise with my mouth hanging open. I'd prepared those materials knowing roughly how much they should yield, but seeing the actual output was different. It was like planting a seed and watching a forest explode out of the ground. The efficiency was borderline supernatural. I sent the craftsmen away to rest, waited until they were completely out of sight, and then activated synthesis with the manic energy of a man who just discovered a money-printing machine in his backyard. Golden light erupted. The mountain of goods shrank by half. When the glow faded, every single item had transformed. The common swords became fine-grade green steel swords. Level 5 wearable. Body plus 23, agility plus 16. And they now came with a bonus combat skill called Windchaser Slash. These weren't practice weapons anymore. They were legitimate battlefield equipment that any mid-level fighter would kill for. The common potions became fine-grade mana recovery potions with a sustained 3% regeneration effect over 1 full hour. In a world where running out of mana during a monster fight meant death, these were liquid gold, possibly more valuable than actual gold. The common meal sets became fine-grade spiritual meal sets, beautifully arranged boxes of magical rice, roasted meat, and vegetables that could gradually enhance a person's physical constitution with regular consumption. I cracked one open, and the aroma hit me like a truck made of deliciousness. Perfectly portioned, gorgeous presentation, little compartments for each dish. I started eating immediately because leadership requires proper nutrition, and also because I was starving and it smelled incredible. The math was so beautiful it made me emotional. 2 common swords cost maybe a handful of copper worth of materials. 1 fine sword sold for 80 to 100 gold coins on the open market. My production cost was essentially the raw or plus blacksmith labor. My selling price was whatever desperate fighters were willing to pay, which in a survival trial where equipment meant the difference between life and death was a lot. I had just built a factory that turned garbage into treasure at 0 magical cost with unlimited daily capacity. I sat there among piles of gleaming fine-grade merchandise, eating my fancy boxed lunch, and felt the unmistakable sensation of a man whose entire financial future just clicked into place. Every sword, every potion, every meal box was pure profit waiting to be collected. The orphan who couldn't afford medicine was about to become the richest lord on the Windspeak wasteland. And absolutely nobody saw it coming. I licked my lips after finishing that spiritual meal set and honestly considered proposing marriage to whoever invented magical cooking. My entire body was buzzing with energy, warmth spreading through every limb like someone had replaced my blood with hot chocolate. The food genuinely improved physical constitution over time. Not fast, but real. After days of eating charred monster meat prepared by centaurs whose culinary philosophy was, apply fire until black, this was a religious experience. Decision made. I was eating these meal sets exclusively from now on. My centaurs too. They were common-grade trash species by birth, but if magical food could slowly buff their bodies, then I'd feed them gourmet meals 3 times daily until they were the most well-nourished horse people in continental history. Whatever surplus remained after feeding my army would go to market. The real moneymakers were weapons and potions anyway. I opened the trading platform and did competitive research like a proper businessman. Checked prices for similar fine-grade swords, potions, and food across the entire marketplace. Then I set my prices slightly above average, because quality merchandise deserves premium pricing and also because I'm greedy. Fine-grade green steel sword, 600 gold coins each. 253 available. Fine-grade mana recovery potion, 200 gold coins each. For 100 available. Fine-grade spiritual meal set, 80 gold coins each. 916 available. I posted the listings anonymously in the public chat and sat back to watch the chaos unfold. The chat room went dead silent for approximately 4 seconds. Then my notification panel had what I can only describe as a seizure. Sold. 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 Notifications stacking on top of each other so fast they blurred together into a continuous golden stream of incoming wealth. People were buying my stuff like Black Friday shoppers trampling each other for discounted televisions. Within minutes, a third of my inventory was gone. Then half. Then everything. The chat erupted into beautiful pandemonium. My hands weren't fast enough. It's all gone. Who still buys things manually? Get an auto-purchase script, amateur. Just snag the last meal set. Tastes incredible. Highly recommend. This green steel sword is actually amazing for the price. Perfect for my build. Then some wannabe tough guy posted his own fancy sword trying to flex, and someone immediately replied asking to buy 200 of them. He went quiet. The entire chat laughed at him for 30 straight messages. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. The speculation about my identity started immediately. Someone guessed it was the Ing family. Who else had the infrastructure for mass production? But then an actual Ing family representative popped into chat and said none of their 17 lords were responsible. 17 lords. That family had 17 of them just in this one trial zone. Meanwhile, I was out here operating solo like a one-man industrial revolution. Naturally, someone guessed it was me. Must be that Chun Mingdao guy. The usual haters crawled out from under their rocks to talk trash, and then something wonderful happened. Xiong Tianxiang, the rich kid from the Xiong family who'd helped me inflate the green snake armor price, stepped into the chat and absolutely demolished my hater. Called the guy a dog. Offered to fight him. Dropped his full real name like a man who feared nothing and nobody. The bully vanished faster than my inventory, and everyone started praising the Xiong family for being honorable and straightforward. I made a mental note. Xiong Tianxiang was good people. Aggressive, rich, slightly terrifying, but good people. Then the final transaction notification arrived, and my brain temporarily stopped functioning. Total transaction amount, 305,080 gold coins. After 1% fee, 302,030 gold coins received. 300,000 gold coins. I stared at the number until my eyes dried out from not blinking. The raw materials had cost me maybe 2,000 coins total. The finished common grade products were worth almost nothing individually. But synthesis turned them into fine grade merchandise, and the markup was approximately 150 times the original investment. 150 times return. In one morning, from one batch of production, I needed to sit down. I was already sitting down. I needed to sit down harder. My hands were literally trembling, not from fear or cold, but from the overwhelming realization that I had just accidentally built the most profitable business model in the history of the myriad races continent. Other lords could try to compete, sure, but they'd need fine-grade materials to make fine-grade products, which cost dramatically more. My production cost was common-grade garbage plus synthesis, which cost exactly zero. The profit margin was so obscene it should be illegal. But I forced myself to calm down. First-mover advantage wouldn't last forever. Eventually others would start producing similar goods, prices would drop, and competition would tighten. I needed to diversify, scale up, and stay ahead. The plan crystallized, balanced development between military hunting and commercial production. Recruit better craftsmen through synthesis, produce higher quality goods, dominate every market tier before anyone else could catch up. But first, army expansion. 216,000 gold coins fed into the Lord's heart. Common-grade centaurs poured out of the golden portal in endless waves. Batch after batch after batch, filling the territory and spilling out beyond the barriers. I merged them with mechanical efficiency. Commons into fine. Fine into rare. Rare into superior. Superior into epic. My eyeball lasers were getting a serious workout today. When Cellophine and Cello returned with their hunting parties, they found 4,500 new centaur wardens standing in formation across the landscape, waiting for the final merge. I preserved Cellophine's consciousness and 499 other veterans as base templates, then activated synthesis one last time. Golden light swallowed 5,000 centaurs whole. When it faded, 1,000 epic-grade centaur chieftains stood before me. 500 male, 500 female. The males were walking siege engines. The females were lethal precision instruments. Their equipment had upgraded again. Finer armor, deadlier weapons, more elegant design. I checked Cellophine's new stats and nearly choked. Epic grade. Level 7. Agility over 4,000. Growth potential, lower god. Her skill list now included something called martial domain, which sounded like the kind of ability that redefined battlefields. She could now be merged further, 6 epic females into 1 legendary chieftain. Legendary. The tier where dragons lived. And I was 1 merge cycle away from putting my centaurs there. I looked at my territory. 1,000 epic-grade warriors. 30 rare-grade craftsmen pumping out merchandise. 100 farmers tending fields. Over 300,000 gold coins in the bank. Day 4 of a 30-day trial. And I was operating at a level that most lords wouldn't reach in 30 years. The orphan from Zulong City who couldn't afford cough medicine was now the wealthiest, fastest-growing lord in the Windspeak wasteland. possibly in the entire trial generation. And nobody even knew how I was doing it. I grinned so wide my face hurt. Tomorrow I'd do it all again. Bigger, better, more. Chun Mingdao doesn't do modest growth. Chun Mingdao does economic shock and awe. My epic grade centaur chieftains were absolute monsters now. Growth potential, lower god. For a species that the entire continent considers one step above livestock, reaching godhood potential was like a house cat qualifying for the Olympics. Normally, you'd never find a centaur above king level anywhere on the continent. I had 1,000 of them with divine aspirations and anger management issues. Naturally, my brain immediately went to the next level. Quick math, 10,080 gold coins to synthesize one mythic grade centaur. A standard military squad was 12 soldiers. 12 mythic centaurs would cost roughly 120,000 coins. With my new manufacturing money printer cranking out 300,000 per batch, that was completely doable. I could have a personal mythic grade death squad by next Tuesday. But morning came and sanity prevailed. My territory buildings were dim and underdeveloped. My infrastructure was embarrassingly thin. Chasing the shiniest toy while my foundation crumbled would be peak stupidity. Synthesis wasn't going anywhere. The mythic squad could wait. Boring responsible leadership first, legendary horse gods later. I sent Cello and the main army out hunting, kept Cellophine behind as my personal mount, and immediately opened the trading platform to buy crafting materials. Bought everything useful in sight, distributed supplies to my blacksmiths, pharmacists, and cooks, gave them their production orders, and then climbed onto Cellophine's back to chase after the army. Quick military lesson from the textbook, because even world-conquering orphans need organizational structure. Continental armies are built in tiers. A squad is 12 soldiers, a platoon is 120, a battalion is 1,200, a small legion is 12,000, a medium legion is 120,000, and a large legion is 1.2 million. Build a large legion and you qualify to upgrade your territory into a kingdom. Actual royalty, crown and everything. The major families back on Blue Star all had lords commanding forces that size, which explained why they'd stayed powerful for millennia. My 1,000 epic chieftains didn't even fill a battalion yet. But quality versus quantity matters enormously here. Most lords would sell their grandmothers for 100 epic troops. I had 10 times that. In the hierarchy of military flex, I was sitting very comfortably. Now, about the ride to the battlefield. I need to address this with complete transparency because honesty is a core value of mine. Cellophine's back was very smooth. Her armor had gaps. My hands needed to hold on to something for safety purposes. Unfortunately, something kept ending up in locations that made Cellophine's face turn colors I didn't know centaur skin could produce. By the time we reached the army, her voice had shrunk to a whisper so quiet that mosquitoes would have told her to speak up. And my lord, the army is just ahead. Your hands. I casually withdrew my hands, fixed her disheveled chest armor like a gentleman. Because I caused the dishevelment and therefore bore responsibility for the repair, and cheerfully said we should go see the troops. She galloped forward with the desperate energy of someone who needed to think about literally anything else. Look, I'm not going to pretend I'm some noble hero above earthly desires. I'm 18. I spent my entire previous life in too much pain to even think about women. Now I have a healthy body, a willing centaur lady, and absolutely no supervision. The math does itself. I knew every curve and contour of centaur anatomy at this point. Cellophine was basically the reason I kept her consciousness through every merge cycle instead of using her as synthesis fuel. We had a thing. An undefined, cross-species, technically inappropriate for a military commander thing, but a thing nonetheless. Anyway, battlefield. Focus. The army had found a large monster camp built into a steep rocky mountain. The residents were frost eagles, 3-meter-tall nightmares with human bodies, eagle claws, massive wings, and actual eagle heads. They looked like someone had asked a horror artist to redesign birds for maximum terror. Rare grade. Level 8. Stats in the 500s and 700s. Skills included wing slash, wind thrust, and frost breath, which could literally freeze you solid while you watched yourself get eaten alive. 1,300 of them nested in this camp. Not a small problem, even for my army. Here was the tactical challenge. These things could fly. Below king level, nobody without wings gets airborne. My male centaurs were heavy armor specialists built like tanks strapped to horses. They could demolish anything on the ground, but couldn't touch a bird hovering 20 feet above them. Utterly useless against aerial targets. They just stood there looking intimidating and occasionally swatting at eagles that swooped too low, like enormous armored cats watching pigeons through a window. But my female centaurs? Rangers with longbows. This was their moment. 500 female chieftains formed firing lines behind walls of male centaur bodyguards. Bows drawn, spirit-infused, arrows loaded. And they started shooting those frozen chicken nuggets out of the sky like the world's most lethal archery tournament. The frost eagles were fast, I'll give them that. Diving, weaving, spitting frost breath, trying to get close enough to claw someone's face off. But when 40 or 50 arrows converge on your position simultaneously, speed becomes irrelevant. Eagle after eagle exploded mid-flight or spiraled downward, trailing feathers and blood, only to meet an iron warhammer on the way down that finished the job with extreme prejudice. Any eagle that actually managed to get close to a female centaur immediately discovered that her male bodyguard had been waiting for exactly this moment. One swing of a massive polearm, and the eagle became abstract art on the mountainside. By the time I arrived, roughly 800 eagles were already dead. The remaining 500 were throwing themselves at my lines with mindless fury, typical monster behavior, zero tactical intelligence, just pure suicidal aggression. They didn't retreat, didn't regroup, didn't try flanking maneuvers. Just charged and died. Charged and died. Nature's lemmings with razor talons. 30 minutes later, the last eagle dropped from the sky with 6 arrows in its chest and a warhammer print where its skull used to be. The system offered me the usual choice: occupy or destroy the camp. Destroy. Obviously. I didn't need angry frozen birds in my army. I needed resources and treasure chests. But then the reward notification made me double-take. Instead of a regular treasure chest, I received a rare-grade large treasure chest. Large chests were exceptionally uncommon drops from camp destruction. More items inside, higher value, better quality across the board. The kind of lucky break that made all the eagle murder worthwhile. I tucked the glowing chest into my storage space and surveyed the destroyed camp with satisfaction. Feathers, frost residue, and eagle carcasses carpeted the mountainside. My centaurs stood among the carnage without a single casualty, barely winded, already looking bored and hungry for the next fight. 1,000 epic-grade warriors. 0 losses. 2 large camps destroyed in 2 days. A manufacturing empire printing money back at base. A treasure chest burning a hole in my pocket. Day 5, and Chun Mingdao's snowball had officially become an avalanche. I spent the rest of day 5 riding cellophane around the wilderness like a horsewoman-mounted CEO, conducting a performance review of my army. And what a performance it was. My 999 epic centaur chieftains absolutely demolished everything in their path. War trance. Ancient walking trees with superior grade quality that could regenerate spiritual energy just by standing on dirt. Chopped into firewood. Obsidian stone beasts. Smashed into gravel. Glacier crocodiles. Turned into handbags, golden long-armed apes, rearranged into abstract sculpture. We plowed through 7 or 8 large monster camps in a single afternoon, like a tornado visiting a neighborhood made entirely of cardboard houses. The hill dwarf camp was the spiciest encounter, though. Right when we were about to finish them off, several dwarves spontaneously mutated, their bloodlines activating mid-combat. They ballooned into 10-meter-tall hill giants with epic-grade power, screaming and swinging fists the size of small cars. My centaurs actually had to work for that one, surrounding the giants, taking hits, coordinating attacks. We won, obviously, but several chieftains came out bruised and drained. First time my army looked even slightly tired. That fight taught me important lessons I'd been ignoring. My centaurs were incredibly powerful, but had real weaknesses. Their massive bodies were clumsy in forests and mountains. They couldn't fly, which made aerial enemies a nightmare, requiring my female rangers to handle everything while the males stood around feeling useless. And anything bigger than them created genuine problems, because size versus size is a different equation than quality versus quality. The ideal solution was building a mixed-species army. Flying units for air superiority. Small agile troops for forest combat. Aquatic soldiers for water engagements. Specialists for weird situations. Every experienced lord eventually builds diversified forces because relying on one troop type is like playing rock, paper, scissors, but only ever throwing rock. Works great until someone throws paper and you look like an idiot. But mixed armies require obscene resources and decades of development. Non-specialty troops cost several times more to recruit than your exclusive species. For an orphan operating solo with zero family backing, that expense was simply unacceptable right now. I'd build my centaur force first, make them as strong as possible, and worry about diversification after the trial ended. Practical? Yes. Exciting? Not really. But responsible leadership sometimes means choosing the boring correct answer over the thrilling stupid one. I filed mixed army plans under future ambitions and focused on the present. I sent the battered centaurs to rest and heal, then handled business back at base. My craftsmen had been busy all day producing another mountain of common-grade weapons, potions, and meals. I synthesized everything into fine-grade merchandise and dumped it all onto the trading platform. The gold notifications started rolling in immediately. At this point, my manufacturing operation ran itself like a well-oiled machine. Buy cheap materials, craftsman forged products, I merged them into premium goods, sell at massive markup, repeat forever. The continental economy was basically my personal ATM. Then came the main event, treasure chest opening night. 17 or 18 chests of various grades sat before me, all collected from the day's camp raids. I cracked my knuckles, said a small prayer to whatever cosmic force controlled loot tables, and opened everything simultaneously. Golden light erupted in every direction. Items materialized out of thin air. The notification sounds blended together into one continuous symphony of acquisition. When the fireworks settled, I surveyed my haul with the wide eyes of a man who just robbed a very generous bank. Gold coins, over 30,000 from chests alone. Combined with my trading profits, my liquid wealth was approaching genuinely silly numbers. Building materials, 400 or 500 units of various high-grade stone, wood, and iron. Multiple tiers of quality. Enough to significantly advance my construction projects without spending a single coin on the marketplace. Defense buildings, 2 arrow towers and 1 boulder tower. These were automated turrets that would shoot anything hostile approaching my territory. The arrow towers fired volleys equivalent to 1,000 archers shooting simultaneously. The boulder tower launched massive rocks at slower speed but devastating impact. The system description for the boulder tower cheerfully asked if I'd ever seen a meat pancake, because apparently that's what enemies looked like after getting hit. I built all 3 immediately along the territory perimeter. They looked impressive, tall stone structures bristling with magical mechanisms, radiating quiet menace. Unfortunately, they needed energy stones or spirit crystals to actually function at full capacity, and those items were permanently banned from the trial. Apparently, some genius lord years ago smuggled in spirit stones and combined them with defense buildings to exploit the system so aggressively that the literal heavens, the mindless, emotionless cosmic operating system of the continent, got personally offended and patched the exploit out of existence. Someone made God update the terms of service. That's simultaneously the most impressive and most stupid achievement I've ever heard of. I respect that person deeply and also want to shake them for ruining it for the rest of us. Without energy stones, my towers would work on ambient spiritual energy alone, meaning reduced firepower. Still useful for the upcoming monster sieges starting on day 7, but not the impenetrable death wall they could have been. Whatever. 3 automated turrets were 3 more than any other lord in this zone probably had. I also pulled a troop summoning card from one of the chests. 800 rare-grade glacier crocodiles. Briefly tempting, but ultimately the same dead-end problem as before. Non-specialty troops with no recruitment pipeline, taking up population space that my centaurs needed. I'd sell it later or trade it for something more useful. The miscellaneous loot included piles of ores, herbs, and crafting materials that would keep my blacksmiths and pharmacists busy for days. Pure fuel for the manufacturing engine. I stood amid my treasure hoard as night fell over the territory, doing mental arithmetic that would have made my school teachers faint. In one day of aggressive military operations plus commercial trading, I'd accumulated wealth and resources equivalent to what most lords would gather in weeks. My territory had automated defenses, a booming economy, 1,000 elite warriors, and enough building materials to continue expanding without pause. The only thing standing between me and the next territory upgrade, small town, was that cursed stone wall blueprint. Without it, I couldn't build proper city walls, and without city walls, the system wouldn't let me advance. Everything else was ready. Materials stockpiled, buildings constructed, population managed. Just one missing blueprint holding back my entire civilization like a single lost puzzle piece in an otherwise completed 1,000-piece set. Somewhere on this continent, a stone wall blueprint existed with my name on it. I just had to find it before someone else upgraded first and stole my milestone bonus. Day 5 ended with me eating a synthesized premium spiritual meal, reviewing my financial empire, and mentally calculating how many more days of production it would take to become so wealthy that the trading platform itself would need to upgrade its digit counter. Chun Mingdao, battlefield commander by day, industrial tycoon by evening, centaur enthusiast by night. The complete package. Except no substitutes. Day 5 ended. Day 6 arrived. And I, Chun Mingdao, was stuck. Not stuck in the fun way, like when you eat too much barbecue and can't stand up. Stuck in the infuriating way, like when you've built an entire civilization from scratch in less than a week and one missing piece of paper prevents you from advancing further. A stone wall blueprint. That's all I needed. One stupid blueprint to build city walls so I could upgrade from large village to small town. Everything else was ready. Buildings constructed. Materials stockpiled. Population managed. Gold coins piling up like I was printing money, which, functionally, I was. But without that blueprint, my territory upgrade was locked behind an invisible door, and I was standing outside like an idiot, holding a bag of gold with nowhere to spend it. My mornings had developed a reliable rhythm by now. Horn sounds at dawn. Cellophine emerges from the Lord's Hall with a face redder than sunset, desperately straightening her armor. Cello pretends not to notice. The 1,000 epic centaurs assemble and thunder off into the wilderness. I wave goodbye from my doorstep like a suburban dad watching his kids leave for school, except the kids are 4-meter-tall horse warriors, and school is mass monster extermination. The trading platform had sold out every item I'd posted overnight. My second batch of weapons, potions, and meal sets generated over 320,000 gold coins in profit. The demand was still ravenous. Fighters needed equipment, potions, and food to survive, and I was apparently the continent's primary supplier. My manufacturing operation was printing money so fast that I was genuinely running out of things to spend it on. But competitors were emerging. Other lords had spotted my business model and started copying it. Knockoff weapons and bargain potions appearing on the platform, slightly cheaper, slightly worse quality. The flattery of imitation, except it was also eating into my margins. I couldn't really stop them. The concept wasn't exactly rocket science. Buy materials, make stuff, sell stuff. The only thing they couldn't replicate was synthesis, which meant their production costs were dramatically higher and their products were capped at whatever grade their craftsmen could actually produce. My advantage was safe for now, but the golden age of zero competition was officially over. Whatever. I had nearly 1 million gold coins. 1 million. The orphan who used to skip meals because he couldn't afford rice now had enough money to buy a small country. If my old schoolmates could see me, they'd need medical attention for their jaws hitting the floor. I spent a huge chunk upgrading territory buildings instead of sitting around moping about the stupid wall blueprint. Every structure in my village went from low-grade to mid-grade. The Lord's Hall transformed from a wooden shack into an actual stone building that looked like somewhere a leader might actually live instead of somewhere a leader might store garden tools. Barracks capacity jumped from 120 to 300 per building. Residential houses went from 20 occupants to 50. Training grounds, blacksmith shops, clinics, taverns, everything got bigger, better, stronger. If I couldn't go up in territory rank, I'd go up in territory quality. When that wall blueprint finally appeared, I wanted to slam the upgrade button and advance instantly without any additional preparation needed. Every building at mid-grade, every requirement pre-fulfilled, nothing left but the walls themselves. My centaur army continued their daily rampage through the wilderness, clearing out camps left and right. More treasure chests rolled in. More gold. More materials. More everything except the one thing I actually needed. I opened chest after chest with increasing desperation, each time hoping for a blueprint, and each time getting gold coins, weapons, potions, summoning cards, wonderful things that I absolutely did not need right now. The universe was giving me everything except the answer to the test. Day 6 passed entirely without finding the blueprint. I checked the trading platform obsessively. Nothing. I monitored the chat for any mention of wall blueprints. Nothing. I even swallowed my pride and sent discreet inquiries through the friend system. Still nothing. The conclusion was obvious. People who found wall blueprints either kept them for themselves or sold them privately to wealthy family heirs through backroom deals. These things never hit the public market. They were too valuable, too essential, too strategic. Anyone who understood lore development knew that wall blueprints were choke point items, and choke point items were power. Meanwhile, announcements kept trickling in from other lords upgrading to large village. Each one was a tiny needle poking my anxiety. They were catching up. My lead was shrinking. Not in overall power. Nobody could touch my military or economic output, but in territory rank, which was the metric that mattered for milestone rewards. If someone found a wall blueprint before me and upgraded to small town first, they'd steal my treasure chest bonus. My reputation points. The resources that were supposed to fuel my continued dominance. The thought made my eye twitch. Night fell on day 6. I couldn't sleep. I sat outside staring at my beautiful, upgraded, frustratingly stuck territory and strategized. Tomorrow was day 7, the last day of newbie protection. Starting day 8, monsters would attack my territory daily. Without proper stone walls, my defense relied entirely on a wooden fence that the system itself had described as untrustworthy, 3 automated turrets running on fumes, and whatever troops I could spare from hunting duties. 1,000 epic centaurs could handle most attacks through pure combat power. But splitting my army between offense and defense meant slower resource collection, slower growth, and slower everything. Walls would let the turrets and a small garrison handle defense while the main army stayed on the offensive. The efficiency difference was enormous. I needed that blueprint today. When dawn broke on day 7, I hadn't slept a single minute. My eyes were bloodshot, my patience was non-existent, and my determination was at approximately 11 out of 10. I called Cellophine and Cello over. They appeared immediately, standing at attention, clearly sensing that today's orders would be different. No more random camp raids, I said, each word deliberate and sharp. Today you target camps with stone defensive walls, structures, fortifications, any camp that looks like it was built by something with actual architectural knowledge. Those camps are more likely to drop construction blueprints. Prioritize them above everything else. Understood. Both commanders saluted. Hooves thundered. The army vanished into the wilderness on a targeted mission. I stayed behind, sleepless and wired, posting another round of merchandise on the trading platform while compulsively refreshing the chat. Another announcement appeared. Ing Shuiwe, 3rd to upgrade to large village. Rare chest. 18 reputation points. The Ing family princess was climbing the ladder right behind me. If she found a wall blueprint before I did, she had the family resources to upgrade instantly. The race was real and getting tighter by the hour. I rubbed my bloodshot eyes and stared at the horizon where my army had disappeared. Come back with that blueprint. Please, before the monsters come knocking and my wooden fence has to defend my entire empire. Because I've read that fence's system description, and I am not sleeping behind it without stone walls. The announcements kept rolling in on the chat platform. Other lords upgrading to large village, one after another. 4th place, 5th, 6th. Each notification was a tiny heart attack reminding me that the competition was heating up while I sat here like a king without a castle wall, which is basically just a guy standing in a field with delusions of grandeur. I tried to stay productive, poured gold into materials, sent supplies to my craftsmen, synthesized everything I could get my hands on, upgraded every single building in my territory to high grade, because if I couldn't go up in rank, I'd at least go up in quality. The improvements were genuinely impressive. My Lord's Hall now gave a 5% boost to all stats for everyone in the territory. Combined with the half-beast totem pole, which I'd also upgraded to high grade for a 15% buff, my entire army was running 20% stronger than yesterday. 1/5 more powerful across the board, just from better architecture. Real estate literally making my soldiers deadlier. The barracks could now hold 1,000 troops each with massively improved recovery and training bonuses. Residential buildings housed 200 people. The training grounds accommodated 1,200 warriors simultaneously with 70% improved cultivation speed. My warehouse expanded to 100,000 capacity. Spirit fields grew crops 50% faster with 80% higher yield. The blacksmith shop, clinic, and tavern each went from 10 workers to 100. Everything was bigger, better, stronger, shinier, and completely, utterly, maddeningly unable to advance further without that stupid wall blueprint. 7th place upgrade announced. 8th. The chat was buzzing with activity as wealthy family lords burned through their imported resource packs and started climbing the ladder. These were the trust fund kids finally spending daddy's money, and they were catching up fast. The Ying princess was among them, and she had the backing of the most powerful family on the entire planet. If she found a wall blueprint first and upgraded to small town before me, I'd lose the milestone bonus that I'd been counting on since day one. 9th place. My heart was in my throat. My fingernails were digging into my palms. I hadn't slept in over 24 hours, and my bloodshot eyes were practically vibrating from caffeine-equivalent anxiety. Every second that passed without a notification from my army felt like an eternity wrapped in frustration and seasoned with despair. Then it happened. A notification pinged in my brain. My centaurs had conquered another camp. A fortified one, with stone structures. Exactly the type I'd told them to prioritize. Destroy, I screamed before the system even finished listing my options. I didn't care what species lived there. I didn't care about occupation bonuses. I wanted that treasure chest, and I wanted it 5 minutes ago. A golden light pillar descended from the sky. A purple superior-grade chest materialized in front of me. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely focus on the words forming in my vision. Open. Purple light exploded outward. Item shadows formed inside the glow. And there, among the silhouettes, I saw something flat, thin, paper-like. My heart simultaneously soared and clenched because if this was another incomplete divine scripture fragment, I was going to physically fight the sky. Congratulations. You received 6,666 gold coins, Stonewall Blueprint. I didn't read the rest. I snatched that blueprint out of the air like a drowning man grabbing a life preserver and hurled it into the Lord's heart before my brain had finished processing the words. Build stone walls, mountains of stone materials I'd been hoarding for days, stockpiled specifically for this moment, sitting in neat piles around the territory like the world's most paranoid emergency supply, vanished instantly into the Lord's heart. Seconds later, a 3-meter-tall, 2-meter-thick stone wall erupted from the ground around my entire territory perimeter. Solid, imposing, beautiful, the most gorgeous rectangle of rocks I had ever seen in my life. I could have kissed every individual stone, but I didn't stop to admire my new walls because there was no time. No time for celebration. No time for sentiment. No time for anything except the next 4 words. Upgrade the territory. 3,000 units each of mid-grade stone, wood, and iron, pre-prepared, pre-synthesized, sitting ready like ammunition for exactly this moment. Got swallowed by the Lord's heart in one gulp. The ground shook. Light erupted. The transformation began. Less than 30 seconds later, 2 announcements hit the chat platform simultaneously. And I do mean simultaneously. The gap between them was less than 1 second. Congratulations to Lord Chun Mingdao, first to advance to 1-star small town. Reward, epic grade treasure chest 50 reputation points. Congratulations to Lord Ing Shuwe, second to advance to 1-star small town. Reward, superior grade treasure chest 40 reputation points. Less than 1 second. The Ying family princess had been right behind me. If my centaurs had taken 5 more minutes to find that camp, if the chest had dropped a regular reward instead of the blueprint, if I'd hesitated for even a heartbeat, she would have taken first place. The margin of victory was so thin, it was practically transparent. The chat went completely silent. A million people holding their breath, terrified of saying the wrong thing. Because this wasn't just any rivalry anymore. This was an unknown orphan repeatedly snatching victory from the golden daughter of the most powerful family in the nation. 3 consecutive first-place upgrades. 3 times the Ying family got second place. 3 times their carefully prepared, lavishly funded, strategically planned advancement got beaten by a guy who bought garbage materials and merged them with magic eyeball beams. Nobody wanted to comment because complimenting me meant insulting Ing Shuiwe, and insulting the Ing family was basically volunteering for a shortened lifespan. Somewhere across the Windspeak wasteland, in a river valley territory filled with exotic buildings, I imagined a very angry princess with golden eyes stomping her feet hard enough to crack stone. And I was right, because moments later, a message appeared in the public chat from Ing Shuiwe herself. I'd like to know which family Lord Chun Mingdao belongs to. Don't misunderstand. I simply want to make your acquaintance. You've advanced so impressively fast. Surely you wouldn't mind a friendly introduction? Translation from polite noble speech to regular human language. Who are you and how dare you beat me 3 times, and I will find you and make you regret being born. The message practically radiated contained fury dressed up in diplomatic language. Every word was carefully chosen to sound friendly, while communicating the unmistakable subtext that someone was going to have a very bad day once she figured out who I was. I stared at her message for a long moment, then closed the chat without responding. Let her wonder. Let her investigate. Let her send scouts and spies and informants. By the time she figured out I was just an orphan with no family, no backing, and no resources beyond what I'd built with my own 2 hands and 1 broken cheat talent, I planned to be so far ahead that it wouldn't matter anymore. 3 first-place finishes. Epic treasure chest in my inventory. 50 fresh reputation points in the bank. Stone walls around my territory. And 1 very angry princess who had no idea she was losing to a guy who couldn't even cook his own dinner. Chun Mingdao sends his regards, Your Highness. Better luck next time. The chat exploded with people demanding I reveal myself. The Ying princess had spoken, and her army of bootlickers mobilized faster than my centaurs charging a goblin camp. Chun Mingdao, come out. We're all Dragon Country citizens. The Ying family's eldest daughter is asking personally. Show some respect. Don't make us dox you. I read every single message with the calm serenity of a man watching monkeys throw things at a glass window. Fascinating behavior. Very entertaining. Absolutely zero chance of me responding. I could practically see Ing Shuiwe through the chat. A furious golden-eyed dragon princess breathing fire because some nobody kept stealing her lunch money 3 times in a row. Her message was dripping with barely contained rage disguised as politeness, like a velvet glove wrapped around a clenched fist. I made my decision instantly, submarine mode. Dive deep. Stay silent. Let them scream into the ocean above me while I operated in peaceful darkness below. You can't punch someone you can't find. And right now, being unfindable was my greatest defensive strategy against an angry princess with the resources of an entire nation behind her. I closed the chat and opened my territory panel instead. Much more interesting reading material. Chun Village had officially become Chun Town. 1-star small town status. And the upgrades were massive. Territory size jumped to 30 kilometers by 30 kilometers, so large I could barely see the edges from the center. Population cap rocketed to 8,000. But the real prize was the territory traits that unlocked automatically upon reaching town status. For permanent bonuses that applied to everything inside my borders, all troops gained 10% too. Every stat. All craftsmen gained 10% effectiveness. Everyone inside the territory got 10% faster cultivation and recovery, and all spirit fields grew 10% faster with 20% higher yields. These weren't small numbers. These were civilization-level advantages that would compound over time into overwhelming superiority. Then something unexpected happened to my body. A wave of scorching energy erupted inside me without warning. Nothing like the gentle warmth of previous level-ups. This was violent, almost painful. Hot then cold then hot again. Like my entire body was being disassembled at the molecular level and rebuilt from scratch. My muscles screamed. My bones ached. My skin felt like it was crawling with electricity. Half an hour of pure physical chaos before it finally subsided. When it stopped, I felt fundamentally different. Stronger, sharper, more alive than ever before. I pulled up my personal stats and understood why. My quality had upgraded from common to fine. This happened automatically because Lord quality tracks territory quality. Village equals common, town equals fine. My level had jumped to tier 4. My stats were all approaching the maximum values for fine-grade quality, sitting around 180 to 196 across all 4 attributes. Balanced growth, no specialization, which was the Lord's blessing and curse. I'd never be the best fighter in any single category, but I'd never have a crippling weakness either. My gold reserve sat at approximately 277,000 coins, a staggering fortune that would have made my old orphanage director faint, cry, and then faint again. Now here's what happened next, and I need you to understand the level of preparation involved because this was not improvisation. This was planning. During those agonizing hours stuck without the stone wall blueprint, I hadn't been idle. While other people would have panicked or complained, I'd been quietly buying materials, synthesizing upgrades, and stockpiling everything needed for not just one but two territory advancements. Every building material for the 2-star town upgrade was already sitting in neat piles inside my warehouse. Every construction requirement had been pre-calculated, pre-purchased, and pre-synthesized. I'd turned my frustration into fuel and my waiting time into preparation time. So when I finally got unstuck, I didn't just take one step forward. I took a running leap. I opened the building menu and started issuing commands like a machine gun, firing construction orders. Build barracks. Build residential quarters. Build training ground. Build warehouse. Build well. Open spirit fields. Nearly 100 consecutive build commands. Materials vanishing from storage at impossible speed. Golden light erupting across the landscape in every direction simultaneously. Buildings rising from the earth like a time-lapse video of a city being born. Barracks here. Houses there. Training grounds over there. Spirit fields spreading across the outer ring like a green carpet being unrolled by invisible hands. Within minutes, my once empty 30-kilometer territory was packed with infrastructure. Every required structure for the 2-star upgrade already in place. Every prerequisite fulfilled. I didn't pause. Didn't admire the view. Didn't take a victory lap. Upgrade to 2-star town. 5,000 units each of mid-grade stone, wood, and iron. Pre-synthesized, pre-staged, sitting ready for exactly this moment. Got inhaled by the Lord's heart in one massive gulp. The ground shook for the 4th time today. Light exploded for the 4th time today. And my territory expanded yet again. The announcement hit the chat platform like a bomb detonating in a library during quiet hours. Congratulations to Lord Chun Mingdao, first to advance to 2-star medium town. Reward, legendary grade treasure chest 100 reputation points. 100 reputation points. A legendary treasure chest. The highest grade reward possible at this stage of the trial. And every single person on the chat platform who had just spent the last 20 minutes trash-talking me, demanding I reveal myself, threatening to find me, and sucking up. To Ing Shuiwe, every one of them went dead silent mid-sentence. The silence was so complete I could practically hear 1 million people simultaneously choking on their own words. All those brave warriors who'd been screaming about how the Ing family's resources would surely overtake me, how my lead was temporary, how luck runs out. They were all suddenly very interested in examining their own shoes. Because this announcement didn't just prove I was fast, it proved I'd been held back. The stone wall blueprint hadn't slowed me down. It had been a dam holding back a flood. And now the dam was gone, and the flood was drowning everyone's expectations. 1 minute of absolute silence passed. Then Ing Shuiwe posted a single word. Impressive, just that. One word. No threats. No demands. No fake friendliness. Just genuine, grudging respect from someone who understood exactly what had just happened and had the dignity to acknowledge it rather than throw another tantrum. The chat slowly came back to life after that, but the tone had shifted completely. Nobody was demanding I show myself anymore. Nobody was making threats. The bootlickers who'd been volunteering to hunt me down for the Ing princess suddenly had amnesia about everything they'd said 5 minutes ago. Funny how that works. Strength doesn't just win battles. It wins arguments nobody even has the courage to start anymore. But I had zero time for political victories or social media drama. Day 7 was ending. At midnight, the newbie protection expired permanently. Starting tomorrow, monsters would attack my territory every single day. No more safe development period. No more peaceful farming and building and trading without consequences. The real trial was about to begin, and I needed every remaining hour to prepare my defenses. Stone walls. Check. Arrow towers. Check. Boulder tower. Check. 1,000 epic grade centaur chieftains. Check. Territory buffed with 20% stat bonuses from buildings and totems. Check. Nearly 300,000 gold coins for emergency recruitment? Check. Bring it on, monsters. Shinmingdao's parking lot has walls now, and those walls have turrets. And behind those turrets stands the most unreasonably overpowered lord this trial has ever produced. Midnight was coming, and I was ready. My new territory stats made me feel like a kid who'd been given the keys to a sports car and then told the highway was 500 kilometers long. 50 by 50 kilometers of land. Population cap, 30,000. Territory bonuses upgraded to 15% across the board. Troop stats, craftsman efficiency, cultivation speed, crop yields, everything. Bigger numbers, better buffs, more space than I could possibly fill. And that's when reality slapped me across the face with a cold fish. 30,000 troops. Let's do the math on that, shall we? Even if I only recruited common grade centaurs at 2 coins each and merged them all the way up, filling that population cap would cost. I stopped calculating because the number was making my eye twitch. Now I understood why every textbook said most lords used rare grade troops as their main force. Because anything higher was financially suicidal at scale. Filling an army with legendary soldiers would bankrupt a small nation. Even superior or epic troops at these numbers would drain resources faster than a hole in a bathtub. I had been so proud of my 1,000 epic chieftains. Now I realized they were a luxury sports car parked in a garage that could fit a fleet of buses. Quality was fantastic. Quantity was embarrassingly inadequate for a territory this size. Well, that was short-sighted, I muttered to nobody, because everyone was either out hunting or afraid of me. Time to open treasure chests and pray for miracles. I had quite the collection saved up, a legendary chest from the 2-star town milestone, an epic chest from the 1-star town milestone, plus 7 or 8 assorted chests from my centaurs demolishing monster camps throughout the day. I lined them up like presents on a very violent Christmas morning. The legendary chest was gorgeous. Pure golden light radiating from every surface, looking less like a box and more like someone had captured a small star and put hinges on it. I'd never opened anything this high grade before. My palms were sweating. My heart was hammering. I whispered, "Open," like I was defusing a bomb. 3 items materialized from golden radiance. All legendary grade, because legendary chests apparently don't do mediocrity. First, a legendary defense building called the Tower of Heaven's Wrath, an automated turret that fired lightning and fire spells at anything hostile approaching my territory. It could even accept skill books to customize its attacks. Absolutely terrifying weapon of architectural destruction. Second, a troop summoning card for golden behemoths, legendary grade beast soldiers. Third, 999,999 gold coins. Nearly 1 million gold coins from a single chest. I physically staggered backward. My vision went blurry from the sheer golden glow of almost 7 digits of currency materializing in front of me. This single chest contained more wealth than most lords would accumulate in their entire trial period. I wanted to roll around in the coins like a dragon on its hoard, but I had dignity. Barely. The dignity was hanging by a thread, but it was there. Then I ripped through the remaining chests like a kid unwrapping birthday presents during an earthquake. The epic chest dropped another copy of the Magic Martial Secret Records Cultivation Manual, my second fragment, which was genuinely remarkable luck even if both pieces were still incomplete. Plus, 2 lightning towers, 33,000 gold coins, and 500 units each of epic-grade building materials. The smaller chests yielded more gold, more materials, another arrow tower, and a rare-grade flame tower. Total haul after opening everything. Over 1 million gold coins in cash, a legendary defense tower, a legendary troop card, multiple defensive buildings, stacks of premium materials, and a second copy of a cultivation manual that I still refused to practice because incomplete divine scriptures were still a trap regardless of how many fragments I collected. The defense buildings went up immediately. I slapped the Tower of Heaven's Wrath onto my stone wall along with the lightning towers, flame tower, and extra arrow tower. My perimeter now bristled with automated magical artillery like a medieval fortress designed by someone with an unlimited military budget and severe paranoia. The only limitation was the Tower of Heaven's Wrath needed skill books to reach full potential, and skill books were rarer than honest politicians. My centaurs had killed tens of thousands of monsters without dropping a single one. The universe clearly had opinions about what I deserved, and skill books weren't on the approved list. With about 1.5 million total gold coins burning a hole in my storage, I made the big decision. It was almost midnight. Day 8, and the monster sieges would begin at any moment. I needed bodies. Lots of them. Right now. I fed 1,382,400 gold coins into the Lord's heart in one massive transaction that physically hurt my soul to execute. The golden portal erupted to maximum size, and common-grade centaurs started flooding out like water from a broken dam. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of horse people pouring into my territory in an endless river of hooves and confused faces. Then I hit them all with synthesis. Wave after wave of golden light. Commons merged into fine, fine into rare, rare into superior. I stopped at superior this time because I needed numbers, not more elites. Quality was important, but quantity won sieges, and 28,000 troops would hold walls a lot better than 1,000 really fancy ones. When the light finally faded, 28,800 superior-grade centaur wardens stood across my territory. Combined with my existing 1,000 epic chieftains, I now commanded just under 30,000 soldiers. Nearly my entire population cap filled with warriors. Every single one was superior grade or above. Every single one was ready for war. Then I looked around and realized I'd made a classic blunder. Housing. I had barracks and residences designed for maybe a few thousand occupants. 28,000 centaurs had nowhere to sleep. They were lying down in alleyways between buildings, curling up in open fields, leaning against walls, basically camping wherever they could find a flat surface. My territory looked like a music festival where everyone was a 4-meter-tall armed horse person. I checked my warehouse for building materials to construct more housing. Empty. Completely cleaned out. Not a single plank of wood or chunk of stone remaining. I'd spent everything on troops and had nothing left to build roofs over their heads. Whoops. Tomorrow's problem. I declared to the midnight sky with the confidence of a man who had absolutely no solution. The moon hung overhead, fat and bright, and completely indifferent to my housing crisis. Day 7 was officially over. Day 8 had arrived. Somewhere beyond my stone walls, in the darkness of the Windspeak wasteland, monsters were stirring, gathering, preparing to test the defenses of every lord foolish enough to think a 7-day head start was sufficient preparation. I had walls. I had towers. I had 30,000 warriors with no beds. And I had approximately 0 gold coins left after the most expensive shopping spree in continental history. Chun Mingdao, military genius, economic mastermind, and absolutely terrible urban planner. The monsters were coming, my soldiers were sleeping in ditches, and somehow this was still the best position of any lord in the entire trial. Midnight struck. Game on. Day 8. The protective barrier around my territory vanished at midnight like a bouncer walking off the job. No more invisible shield keeping the world out. From now on, anything, monsters, other players, angry princesses with family grudges, could waltz right into my front yard. Welcome to the real trial. Please wipe your feet and try not to die. Cello took the new recruits on patrol around the perimeter while I did some quick defensive math. My territory was 50 by 50 kilometers, which was absurdly large to defend. So I cheated. I shrank my stone walls inward to a 30 by 30 kilometer perimeter, creating a tighter defensive ring that my troops could actually cover without stretching thinner than. My patience during the wall blueprint crisis. Once I understood how monster sieges actually worked in practice versus textbook theory, I could always expand the walls outward again. At exactly 8 in the morning, the screaming started. And I mean screaming. Howls, roars, shrieks, and various sounds that belonged exclusively in nightmares, coming from all 4 directions simultaneously. The monster army had arrived for their first visit to Casa Chun Mingdao, and they had not brought housewarming gifts. Quick math according to the guidebook. Attacking monsters are always lower quality than your troops, but they compensate with horrifying numbers. The formula was total troop count multiplied by territory star level. I had roughly 29,800 soldiers, and my territory was 5 stars total, 3 from village stages plus 2 from town stages. That meant approximately 150,000 monsters were charging my walls from every direction. 150,000 against my 30,000. 5-to-1 odds. On paper, terrifying. In practice, These were rare-grade monsters attacking superior and epic-grade defenders. Quality gap of 1 to 2 full tiers. It was like sending 150,000 angry chihuahuas against 30,000 armored bears. The chihuahuas had enthusiasm. The bears had everything else. I rode Cellophane to the eastern gate first. 5,000 male centaur wardens had formed a wall of iron and muscle outside the stone fortifications, grinding through an ocean of goblins. These weren't the pathetic common-grade goblins I'd steamrolled on day 2. These were enhanced siege goblins, rare grade, level 9, carrying actual forged weapons instead of wooden clubs. The system had buffed them with a special compulsion. If they destroyed my territory, they'd get to keep their enhanced power permanently. So every single one fought with the desperate ferocity of creatures who believed this battle was their ticket to a better life. Inspirational, in a deeply disturbing way. Too bad inspiration doesn't stop a warhammer. 2,000 female centaurs lined the top of my stone walls, raining arrows down into the goblin horde like the world's most aggressive sprinkler system. Except instead of water, it dispensed death. Goblins dropped in waves, each volley clearing dozens. The males below finished off whatever survived the arrow storm, iron hooves crushing green bodies into the dirt with mechanical efficiency. Then the Tower of Heaven's wrath activated. Oh, my God! A blinding flash erupted from the crystal at the tower's peak. A fireball the size of a small house launched into the densest cluster of goblins and detonated with a thunderclap that rattled my teeth from half a kilometer away. When the flames cleared, everything within 100 meters of the impact zone had ceased to exist. Not dead, not injured, gone, vaporized, converted from goblins into abstract concepts of former goblins. The ground was scorched black in a perfect circle of absolute destruction. I stared with my mouth hanging open. That was a legendary grade defense building. One shot deleted maybe 200 goblins simultaneously, and it was recharging for another blast. I suddenly forgave the universe for every frustrating treasure chest that didn't contain a wall blueprint, because this was worth the wait. Kill notifications flooded my brain so fast they blurred into white noise. Gold coins trickling in with every kill. 8 coins per goblin, 16 per glacier crocodile, plus weapon and armor drops from skeleton swordsmen and hill dwarves. The loot was piling up faster than my warehouse could process it. 4 monster species were attacking simultaneously. Goblins from the east, glacier crocodiles from the south, big scaly brutes with thick armor but slow movement, basically walking luggage with teeth. Skeleton swordsmen from the north, undead warriors with decent equipment but brittle bones that shattered satisfyingly under centaur hooves. And hill dwarves from the west. The hill dwarves were the problem. I urged Cellophane westward at full gallop. 10+ kilometers of territory blurred past as her hooves devoured the distance. When we arrived at the western gate, I immediately saw why this front was different. 17 or 18 hill dwarves had undergone bloodline mutation mid-battle, transforming into hill giants. 10 meters tall, naked, muscles like boulders wrapped in skin. Each punch sent shockwaves through the air and knocked my epic-grade chieftains backward, some coughing blood after absorbing just 3 to 5 hits. These giants were epic grade level 9, same tier as my best troops, but with vastly superior physical stats and the body mass of a building. My chieftains were elite warriors, but physics still applied. When something 10 meters tall punches something 3 meters tall, the smaller thing loses regardless of quality ratings. Worse, thousands of regular hill dwarves swarmed around the giants like protective escorts, making it impossible to isolate and surround the big ones. My centaurs were fighting a two-front battle, giants overhead trying to flatten them, and dwarves underfoot trying to hamstring them. Coordinated chaos designed by nature to be as annoying as possible. Then the lightning towers fired. Over 100 purple lightning bolts streaked from the tower and slammed into the dwarf formation. Every dwarf they touched went rigid, muscles locking up from electrical shock. And the giants, those enormous, seemingly unstoppable engines of destruction, froze solid for over 10 seconds each, just standing there, paralyzed, twitching slightly, looking extremely surprised about their sudden inability to move. Not lightning resistant. Beautiful, beautiful discovery. I screamed the order before my brain finished forming the thought. Every centaur engaging the giants fell back to the lightning tower's effective range. The giants pursued because monsters are fundamentally stupid. They lumbered forward into lightning range, got paralyzed, and my centaurs swarmed them like piranhas on a stunned whale. Hammers, axes, swords, arrows, everything hitting simultaneously during those precious frozen seconds. When the paralysis wore off, another volley of lightning locked them up again. Rinse, repeat, die? The cheers from my centaurs when the first giant toppled were loud enough to hear from the eastern wall. After that, it became systematic slaughter. Paralyze, swarm, kill. Paralyze, swarm, kill. The giants fell one by one, and without their massive protectors, the regular dwarves crumbled within minutes. 1 hour after the siege began, it was over. All 4 fronts cleared. 150,000 monsters reduced to scattered corpses and satisfying loot notifications. My walls held. My towers performed brilliantly. My centaurs sustained injuries, but 0 casualties. The first monster siege of the trial was officially a complete, overwhelming, embarrassingly one-sided victory. I sat on Celophine's back surveying the battlefield. Broken weapons, monster remains, scorched earth from the Tower of Heaven's Wrath, and felt the warm glow of someone who had massively overprepared for an exam and absolutely crushed it. Day 8, Monster Siege Number 1, Chun Mingdao wins. Flawlessly, with towers that shoot lightning and fireballs. While riding a blushing centaur woman through the carnage like the world's most inappropriate victory parade. The monsters would be back tomorrow with bigger numbers. But today belonged to me and my 30,000 horse warriors and my beautiful, terrifying, gloriously overpowered stone walls. I barely sat down in my newly renamed Governor's Hall, formerly known as the Shack, now upgraded to slightly fancier shack with stone walls. When the system delivered my battle report card like a teacher grading an exam I didn't study for, but somehow aced anyway. Battle Summary: 163,512 monsters attacked. Goblins, 41,375. Glacier crocodiles, 39,672. Skeleton swordsmen, 46,792. Hill dwarves, 35,673. Friendly casualties, 0. Battle duration, 1 hour, 17 minutes, 36 seconds. Overall rating, A grade. The highest rating anyone on Blue Star had received in over 1,000 years. S grade was technically possible, but hadn't been achieved in living memory, making A grade the practical ceiling of excellence. And I got it while deliberately abandoning 20 kilometers of territory to shrink my defensive perimeter. Imagine what I'd score if I actually defended the full area. Actually, don't imagine that. I'd probably break the grading system entirely, and the heavens would patch me out of existence like they did to that Spirit Stone exploiter. The rewards for an A-grade rating were absolutely obscene. Base reward: 10,000 gold coins and 1 superior chest. Rating bonus: 100,000 gold coins, 10 superior chests, and 1 epic chest. The rating bonus was literally 10 times the base reward. 10 times. The system was essentially saying congratulations on being ridiculously overprepared. Here's enough treasure to become even more ridiculously overprepared. Combined with monster kill drops throughout the battle, my total haul from 77 minutes of combat was 167,361 gold coins, 1 epic chest, 14 superior chests, plus mountains of materials, weapons, and summoning cards. 1 siege battle earned me more than an entire day of hunting operations. The math was clear. Monster sieges weren't just defensive obligations. They were the single most profitable activity available to a lord. Every future siege was basically payday with extra violence. I lined up all 15 treasure chests and cracked them open simultaneously, because patience is for people who don't have 15 glowing boxes of potential fortune sitting in front of them. The epic chest erupted in orange light and delivered 2 items that made my knees weak. First, an SS-grade skill book called Invisible Sword Chi, a spatial attribute attack technique that launched invisible, unblockable sword energy. Completely undetectable, impossible to defend against, the kind of assassination tool that made powerful warriors check under their beds at night. Second, an SS-grade cultivation manual called Whirlwind Sky Plunder Art, a complete wind attribute combat system. Let me repeat that. Complete, not a fragment. not a torn page from some supposedly divine scripture. A fully intact cultivation manual with everything included. Main cultivation method for wind attribute spiritual power, 6 combat techniques scaling from D grade to SS grade, and a matching equipment set blueprint called the Whirlwind Set with 6 pieces. One package containing literally everything a warrior needed to go from nobody to nightmare. The textbook said complete cultivation manuals were so rare they essentially didn't exist on the open market. People would commit actual crimes for fragments. I just got the whole thing from a treasure chest, like finding a winning lottery ticket in a cereal box. The 14 superior chests collectively coughed up 30-something thousand more gold coins, 14 pieces of 4th-tier equipment, and assorted miscellaneous valuables. Nice but honestly overshadowed by the epic chest's legendary haul. Now came the important decision. Who gets the good stuff? The Whirlwind Sky Plunder art boosted spiritual power and agility as its primary attributes. Agility, the main stat for rangers. My 500 female centaur chieftains were all rangers. This cultivation manual was tailor-made for them, like the universe had personally measured their needs and custom-ordered a solution. I could already picture 500 wind-enhanced centaur rangers firing spirit-infused arrows while surrounded by miniature tornadoes. The mental image alone was worth the price of admission. The Invisible Sword Chi skill book was trickier. Unlike cultivation manuals that could be copied and shared, skill books were single-use consumables. One person absorbs it, gains the technique permanently, book disappears forever. I needed to choose the recipient carefully. I chose Cellophine, my mount, my commander, whatever she was to me. The centaur woman who'd been with me since day one, who'd survived every synthesis cycle, who brought me barbecue when I was starving, who carried me across battlefields while I conducted highly unprofessional investigations of centaur anatomy. She deserved the best equipment I could give her, and an invisible spatial sword technique would transform her from dangerous ranger into unstoppable killing machine. I handed her the Whirlwind Manual first, telling her to distribute it to all female centaurs. Then, privately, I gave her the Invisible Sword Chi book. She absorbed it instantly, the knowledge flooding into her mind, her eyes widening as she comprehended the terrifying power now living inside her fingertips. She looked at me with an expression mixing gratitude, affection, and slight confusion about why her lord kept giving her special treatment. The answer was complicated and involved feelings I wasn't ready to examine closely, so I deflected by thinking about my future cultivation manual instead. The Magic Marshal Secret Records. I'd found 2 fragments now, incredibly rare luck. According to the Lord's development guide, finding multiple fragments of the same manual during the trial triggered a special mechanic. At trial's end, there was a 70% base chance of receiving the complete version. If every siege battle scored A grade or above, that jumped to 80%. If I aggressively cleared wild monster camps throughout the trial, 90%. The remaining 10% was pure luck. I'd been demolishing camps daily and just scored A grade on my first siege. If I maintained this performance for the remaining 23 days, I was looking at a 90% chance of receiving a complete divine tier cultivation manual, the Magic Marshal Secret Records in its full, unbroken glory. The same manual I'd dismissed as worthless trash when I found the first fragment. The same book I'd literally thrown on the ground and compared unfavorably to something a dog would reject. Turns out the universe had been giving me puzzle pieces all along, and I'd been too focused on immediate gains to see the bigger picture. Those fragments weren't junk. They were investments maturing over time. Every camp I destroyed, every A-grade rating I'd earned, every day of maximum effort during this trial was pushing that completion percentage higher and higher. 23 days remained. 23 more sieges to ace. 23 more days of hunting, building, trading, and merging my way toward absolute dominance. The path to godhood wasn't a sprint. It was a marathon paved with monster corpses, treasure chests, and the tears of angry princesses who kept finishing second. Chen Mingdao was running that marathon at a dead sprint anyway. Because why walk when you can ride a blushing centaur at full gallop? After the siege victory high wore off, reality reasserted itself with its favorite weapon, economics. I had 32,000 gold coins burning a hole in my storage, a territory the size of a small country, and approximately 9 million things that needed building. The math was brutal. 50 by 50 kilometers of land requiring hundreds of structures, each consuming materials I had to buy, synthesize, and install. My estimate for reaching 3-star town was 2 to 3 million gold coins minimum. My current balance covered maybe 15% of that. Being rich and being rich enough are apparently two very different things. My commercial empire was still running, but the golden age of zero competition had officially ended. Other lords had copied my business model, flooding the market with knockoff weapons and discount potions. My fine-grade green steel swords and mana recovery potions still sold, but prices had dropped and demand wasn't as explosive as those first magical days when I was the only supplier in the zone. I kept listing daily batches out of habit and profit, but the real money was clearly shifting towards siege battle rewards now. One A-grade siege earned more than an entire day of trading. The universe was telling me to focus on military excellence, and for once, I was listening. I swept the trading platform clean of cheap materials again. 1-star stone, wood, and iron still cost the same beautiful price of 10 units per gold coin. The sellers were mostly low-level combat professionals who couldn't use basic materials themselves and needed gold for equipment and potions. A perfect symbiotic economy. They sold me garbage. I turned it into civilization. Everyone won, though admittedly, I won significantly more than everyone else. With materials in hand, I went on a building spree across my territory. Golden light flashing everywhere as structures rose from empty ground. More barracks for my overcrowded centaurs who'd been sleeping in alleys like homeless war machines. More residential buildings for my growing farmer workforce. Training grounds, warehouses, wells, spirit fields stretching across the landscape. Each building consumed materials like a hungry teenager consuming refrigerator contents, and my gold reserves shrank with alarming speed. Once construction wound down, I sent fresh materials to my craftsmen and finally found myself with something I hadn't experienced since arriving on this continent: free time. I pulled the 2 Magic Marshal secret records fragments from my warehouse. They'd been sitting in storage like neglected homework, and the moment I placed them together, golden light erupted and they merged into a single, thicker volume. The combined manual had upgraded to 5th-tier quality, now capable of training someone all the way to Holy Domain realm instead of just king level. Still incomplete, still a fragment, but a significantly beefier fragment than before. The system description had also gotten sassier, asking if I wanted to become a god and live forever, as if that was a casual question one encounters on a Tuesday. I wanted to practice dual wielding, staff in one hand, sword in the other, looking impossibly cool while casting spells and slashing simultaneously. The Magic Martial cultivation path trained both warrior energy and magical power in parallel, which was supposedly extremely difficult for normal professionals, but perfectly suited for lords who received constant spiritual energy feedback from their troops. The universe had apparently been designing my build path this whole time without telling me. Rude but appreciated. Speaking of building things, I also had 2 equipment blueprints now, the Magic Martial set and the Whirlwind set. Both needed blacksmiths to study and forge them. I recruited another batch of farmers, filtered out the ones with forging talents, merged them into rare-grade blacksmiths through synthesis, and split them into 2 teams. 1 person got the Magic Martial blueprints. 9 people got the Whirlwind blueprints, because outfitting 500 female Centaur Rangers with matching wind attribute equipment was a much larger production job than making one set for me. I instructed them to start with the lowest tier versions. Common grade sets first. Quantity over quality. Because anything they forged at common grade, I could merge upward through synthesis into whatever tier I actually needed. This was the fundamental principle that made my entire operation work. Never pay premium prices for premium products when you can manufacture budget versions and upgrade them for free. It was like buying store-brand cereal and magically transforming it into gourmet breakfast through sheer willpower and golden eyeball lasers. With my craftsmen busy and my army hunting, I sat down in my newly upgraded Stone Lord's Hall and finally began cultivating the Magic Martial secret records. The experience was genuinely incredible. I circulated the technique through my body following the manual's prescribed energy pathways. Spiritual power surged through every meridian, pulling ambient energy from the surrounding atmosphere into the flow. When the circulation completed its first full cycle, The energy split into two distinct streams. One returned to my core, transforming into golden warrior chi that settled in my abdomen like liquid metal. The other flowed upward into the space between my eyebrows, crystallizing into shimmering rainbow-colored magical power. Two types of energy, two combat systems, one body. I could feel both pools of power humming inside me like twin engines waiting to be unleashed. The warrior chi felt dense, heavy, physical, perfect for close combat and body enhancement. The magical power felt ethereal, volatile, expansive, ideal for ranged attacks and environmental manipulation. Together they were supposed to make me a walking army of one, equally dangerous at any range. Because I'd already been passively pushed to 4th tier through my troops' energy feedback, I had an enormous reservoir of raw spiritual power to convert. Most cultivators would spend weeks reaching this point. I burned through the conversion in a single evening session, transforming every drop of stored energy into its refined warrior and magical forms. The quality difference was immediately noticeable. Refined energy hit harder, moved faster, and felt more controllable than the crude spiritual power I'd been running on before. The only annoyance was that incoming feedback energy from my troops still arrived in raw form, requiring manual conversion through cultivation practice. Apparently, this problem solved itself at king level, when the technique would auto-convert incoming energy without conscious effort. One more reason to keep leveling up, as if I needed additional motivation. Day 9 arrived with monster howls at dawn. My second siege. I walked outside to an empty territory because Cellophine and Cello had already mobilized the entire army without needing orders. Yesterday's experience had transformed them from nervous defenders into confident professionals who treated monster invasions like morning exercise. Different monsters this time: wasteland werewolves, frost demons, skeleton knights, and rat people. But the same fundamental equation. Lots of weak enemies versus fewer strong defenders behind stone walls with magical artillery support. Kill notifications flooded in immediately. 12 coins per werewolf. 9 per frost demon. Equipment drops from skeleton knights. The beautiful sound of profit through violence. I sat in my doorway, half meditating on my new cultivation technique, half listening to the distant sounds of my army systematically deleting another 150,000 monsters from existence. This was my life now. Morning sieges for treasure and gold. Afternoon trading for more gold. Evening cultivation for personal power. Night construction for territorial expansion. And somewhere in between, questionable interactions with a centaur woman who definitely deserved better but seemed weirdly okay with the arrangement. Day 9. Another siege. Another payday. Another step toward the throne that nobody else could see me building. Day 9's monster lineup was spicier than yesterday's. Wasteland werewolves, wasteland demons, skeleton knights, and rat people. The werewolves and demons were regional specialties, local flavor, if you will, from nearby tribal settlements I could potentially raid later for bonus loot. The skeleton knights were generic undead cannon fodder, about as threatening as angry coat racks with swords. Standard issue monster siege padding. But the rat people? Oh, the rat people were a problem. 2 meters tall, golden fur, human bodies with rat heads, eyes like cunning golden marbles that could apparently hypnotize you into dying, and teeth, golden fangs that could supposedly chew through anything. Legend said a rat person warrior once gnawed through a god's divine kingdom, robbed it, and escaped. A rat broke into God's house and committed burglary. That's not a monster. That's a heist movie protagonist with fur. These weren't some garbage tier species either. Every single one was superior grade, level 9, with agility stats pushing 2600. Agility, the exact attribute that countered my centaur's strength-based fighting style. I teleported to the eastern gate. Yes, lords can teleport within their territory, which is the single coolest perk nobody mentioned in school, and immediately saw the disaster unfolding. My male centaur wardens were struggling. A big beefy horseman would charge forward swinging his massive poleaxe, and the targeted rat people would just dissolve into golden blurs, slide under the centaur's belly, and start biting his legs and stomach with those horrifying golden teeth. The centaur would leap into the air, impressive for something that weighs 2 tons, and slam down an energy blade that cratered the earth. But the rats were already gone, vanished into another skirmish. leaving the centaur swinging at empty air while bleeding from 6 new bite wounds. It was like watching bodybuilders try to catch squirrels. Technically, the bodybuilders were stronger. Practically, the squirrels were winning through pure speed and annoying evasiveness. The textbook had warned about this exact scenario. Troop types have counter-relationships. Strength-based units get dominated by agility-based units. Body gets countered by speed. My centaurs were the definition of big and strong, and these rats were the definition of small and fast. The mathematical matchup was terrible, and no amount of superior-grade equipment could fix a fundamental tactical incompatibility. My centaurs were accumulating injuries at an alarming rate. Not dying. They were too tough for that, but getting worn down through 1,000 small cuts. Or rather, 1,000 small bites. Death by nibbling. What an embarrassing way for an elite warrior to go. I watched for another 30 seconds, confirmed that this problem wasn't going to solve itself, and made a decision I'd been postponing. Time to play my trump card. I reached into my storage space and pulled out the legendary grade Golden Behemoth summoning card. 12 units. 1 squad. I'd been saving this for a special occasion, and watching my army get nibbled to death by oversized rodents definitely qualified. Activate. Golden light exploded outward. 12 massive shadows materialized inside the glow. When the light faded, my jaw dropped so hard it nearly dislocated. 70 meters tall. 70 meters. Each one was a mountain of muscle with blood-red eyes, arms like temple pillars, and claws several meters long that gleamed with killing intent. They made my 5-meter centaurs look like house cats standing next to skyscrapers. The ground cracked under their weight just from standing there. But the real shock was their stat sheet. I checked the first one, and my brain temporarily blue-screened. Golden Behemoth. Legendary 3-star grade. Level 6. Body attribute. 7,368. Everything else. Comparatively pathetic. Spirit under 1,000. Agility barely above 1,000. Mental stats negligible. This was an extreme path soldier. A concept I'd read about, but never seen in person. See, most creatures in the myriad races continent have relatively balanced stats. 1 or 2 attributes might be slightly higher, creating different combat specializations, but the overall spread stays somewhat even. That's normal. That's how 99% of beings are built, including me and my centaurs. Then there are extreme path beings. Creatures who dumped literally everything into one attribute and abandoned all others. Maximum specialization. 0 balance. The result is a unit that's practically unbeatable in its specialty and practically useless at everything else. An extreme path body specialist like the Golden Behemoth had physical power so absurd that it could fight enemies an entire tier above its grade and win through sheer overwhelming force. Nothing at its level could match its physical stats. Nothing above its level wanted to try. All 12 behemoths were extreme path body types. My legendary treasure chest hadn't just given me strong troops. It had given me 12 walking natural disasters with the combined subtlety of an earthquake wearing brass knuckles. Kill the rat people, I said simply. Show me what you can do. The sound that came out of 12 behemoth throats simultaneously was less a roar and more a geological event. The ground shook. Dust erupted in every direction. I stumbled backward, temporarily blinded by flying debris, ears ringing from the shockwave. When visibility returned, the eastern battlefield had transformed into a slaughterhouse. 12 golden blurs, which was hilarious because these things were 70 meters tall and should not have been capable of blurring, were rampaging through the rat people formation like bowling balls through tissue paper. Enormous clawed arms swinging in wide arcs, each sweep generating energy shockwaves that shredded everything in range. Rat people, those agile, cunning, untouchable speedsters who'd been making my centaurs look foolish, were being turned into red mist by creatures so physically dominant that speed advantages simply didn't matter. You can't dodge something whose attack covers the entire area you could possibly dodge into. The rats tried their signature move, darting under the behemoths to attack vulnerable spots. Except behemoths didn't have vulnerable spots. Their body attribute was over 7,000. A rat biting a behemoth was like a mosquito biting a tank. The behemoth probably didn't even notice. It just kept swinging, kept crushing, kept converting living creatures into modern art. Golden claws flashing, rat people screaming, ground shaking with every step. 40,000 superior grade rats versus 12 legendary extreme path behemoths. And the rats were losing so badly, it was almost sad. Almost. Then I remembered their creepy hypnosis eyes and teeth that could chew through divine architecture, and the sympathy evaporated completely. My centaurs actually stopped fighting to watch. Thousands of horse warriors standing motionless, weapons lowered, heads tilted upward, watching 70-meter golden giants casually annihilate the enemy that had been giving them so much trouble. The expression on their faces was somewhere between awe and professional embarrassment. Chun Mingdao, the lord who brings a nuclear option to a knife fight. Because why play fair when you have 12 building-sized golden murder machines sitting in your back pocket? My centaurs pulled back and formed a respectful semicircle around the eastern battlefield, content to watch 12 70-meter golden giants do their thing. And by their thing, I mean systematically convert 40,000 rat people into abstract modern art using nothing but their bare claws and an absolutely broken set of abilities. See, I'd noticed the rats had suddenly become slow. Like, comically slow. These were creatures with agility stats pushing 2,600, the same speedsters who'd been making my centaurs look like arthritic grandparents trying to swat flies. Now they were moving like they were wading through invisible honey, standing in place, practically volunteering to be shredded. I checked why and found the answer in the behemoth's skill descriptions. Gravity field, an innate SS-grade ability that created a zone of crushing gravitational pressure around each behemoth. Everything hostile inside the field lost 20% of all stats. Get closer to the behemoth? 70% reduction. 70%. Imagine being an agility-based fighter and suddenly losing 70% of the one thing keeping you alive. You go from untouchable speedster to standing target in a single heartbeat. That explained the slow-motion massacre happening before my eyes. Rats that could dodge centaur poleaxes at point-blank range were now stumbling around like drunk toddlers, while building-sized claws swept through their ranks with industrial efficiency. They tried their signature move, darting underneath to bite vulnerable spots, but behemoths didn't have vulnerable spots. 7,000 body attribute meant their skin was basically armor plating. A rat biting a behemoth was accomplishing exactly as much as a mosquito biting a battleship. The behemoth probably felt a mild tickle and responded by casually bisecting the offender with a claw swipe. And gravity field wasn't even their best trick. Beast blood boil was another innate SS-grade skill that shrank their body while tripling their already insane physical stats. Tripling. 7,000 body times 3 equals 21,000 body attribute in a creature that was already the physical equivalent of a natural disaster. And then there was Berserk mode, a third SS-grade skill boosting all 4 attributes by 200% simultaneously. So these things could activate both skills at once and become smaller, faster, 3 times stronger gravity-generating murder machines with doubled everything else on top. No wonder legends said golden behemoths could rip apart dragons with their bare hands. Dragons were legendary-grade apex predators feared across the entire continent. Behemoths apparently treated them like chew toys. And I had 12 of them. 12 extreme path, triple SS skilled, gravity field projecting, dragon-ripping golden nightmares who answered to me and me alone. I watched the last cluster of rat people dissolve into white light as the behemoths finished their work. The entire eastern front cleared in under 30 minutes. My centaurs stood there blood-spattered and wide-eyed, many still nursing bite wounds from their earlier struggles against these same rats. They'd fought tooth and nail, literally tooth. Those rat fangs were no joke, and barely held the line. Then 12 golden giants walked in and treated the same enemy like popcorn. The battlefield fell silent. Monster corpses dissolved into sparkles. Dropped loot vanished into my warehouse automatically. My behemoths stood among the fading light like victorious gods surveying their handiwork, completely uninjured, barely winded, looking almost bored. I was already recalculating my entire military strategy. These 12 behemoths weren't just strong troops. They were an absolute trump card that covered my centaur's biggest weakness. Half-horse warriors excelled at ground combat against anything their size or smaller, but struggled against fast enemies and flying targets. Behemoths didn't care about speed because gravity field neutralized it entirely. Anything that entered their zone became slow enough for even my clumsiest centaur to flatten. The military textbook said 99% of lords built balanced armies with rare-grade troops as the backbone, superior and epic as elite forces, and legendary or mythic units as emergency reserves. Proportional investment across tiers because maintaining high-grade troops consumed astronomical resources. Food, equipment, training, housing, everything scaled with quality. Even the wealthiest families couldn't sustain an army of purely legendary soldiers. The economics simply didn't work. But I had synthesis. My centaurs cost pennies to produce at any grade. My craftsmen manufactured their own supplies. My trading empire funded everything. The normal rules of military economics applied to me about as much as speed limits applied to someone who owned a teleporter, which, coincidentally, I also did now inside my territory. Half an hour after the behemoths finished their appetizer course at the eastern gate, the entire siege ended.